Chapter 596. Jin Jian's father panicked when he heard Emo Shi's instructions. Dean, stop him. You should know that our golden dragon's energy is very sharp, and the heavenly dragon's cave is very fragile. If we go through the heavenly dragon's cave, we might break it. If that happens, my son will be crippled. None of our metal-type dragons have ever gone through the heavenly dragon's cave. The other parents' expressions changed when they heard that. Stop him. Dean, does he know how to teach? It's too late. Seeing that the parents were about to explode, the Dean released Long Wei from his body. He was a super-evolved giant dragon. His Long Wei was not something these parents could bear. A chill rose from the bottom of these parents' hearts. They instantly quieted down. Actually, as the head of the school, the Dean should not have used Long Wei on the parents. However, if he did not use Long Wei now, these parents were about to explode. In the 6th grade classroom. When Jin Jian heard Emo Shi's words, he was still a little confused. However, when he thought about how Mu Wanqing was in the same situation when she broke through, he immediately felt confident. According to Emo Shi, after the 7th cycle of energy, they should not go through the heavenly dragon's cave. Instead, they should go through the dragon spine cave first, and then the heavenly dragon's cave. The next moment, Jin Jian's expression changed drastically, and his body trembled violently. Emo Shi's right index finger pressed directly on the heavenly dragon's cave on top of his head. After a while, large beads of sweat dripped down from Jin Jian's head. Emo Shi was relieved. Jin Jian's breakthrough had failed. Not only did it fail, but when the energy was in the heavenly dragon's cave, the heavenly dragon's cave was almost crippled by the sharp metal-type energy. When the students saw this scene, they were all shocked. In the dean's office, the dean frowned. He wanted these parents to watch Teacher Mo's performance, but it turned out to be a slap in the face. How the hell was he going to explain this? He glanced at the parents. Sure enough, their expressions all changed. Although they were suppressed by their Long Wei and did not dare to say anything, they were furious. However, Emo Shi soon gave an explanation. He shook his head and said, Jin Jian, why did you hesitate when you were attacking the heavenly dragon cave? Jin Jian's eyes were no longer as sharp as before. He said, I've never been to the dragon spine cave before, especially the heavenly dragon cave. Since I was young, all the seniors have told me that the sword chi of the metal element should never go through the heavenly dragon cave. Otherwise, at the very least, his acupoints would be crippled. At the very least, all the meridians in his body would be broken, and he would never be able to recover. So I hesitated. Emo Shi shook his head. It's because you hesitated that you missed the best time. You all think that the dragon spine acupoint is a useless acupoint and is completely useless in cultivation. Actually, let me tell you, the Longji acupoint is the most useful of all the acupoints. Its function was to stimulate other acupoints. When the energy passes through the Longji acupoint at a specific time, it can stimulate different acupoints. After 7 cycles, you'll have to go through the Longji acupoint to stimulate the Tianlong acupoint. After the heavenly dragon acupoint was stimulated, its flexibility and strength were greatly enhanced. It was completely capable of withstanding the sharp metal energy. But this time was very short, only an instant. You hesitated just now and missed the best opportunity. As the saying goes, if you're sincere, it'll work. Since you're not sincere, you can retreat. Hearing this, Jin Jian immediately said in fear, Mentor, I won't hesitate anymore. I'll definitely break through this time. Emo Shi waved his hand and said to everyone, Mu Wanqing, if you're sincere, break through immediately. Jin Jian, if you're not sincere, you won't be able to break through. Instead, you'll almost go crazy. You'll have to think about how to choose. The students looked at each other. Finally, their gazes fell on Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing felt everyone's gaze and her cheeks immediately turned red. Her head could be buried under the table. Finally, a student with the fire element stepped forward. Mentor, let me do it. Emo Shi nodded. Begin. That student practiced at once. Emo Shi gave a few simple instructions. The student followed Emo Shi's instructions and practiced again. 5 minutes later, a stream of air suddenly came out of his body and rushed in all directions. Fortunately, Emo Shi was prepared. He condensed an energy shield and covered him, shielding him from the shock wave when he broke through. All the students were pleasantly surprised when they saw this. He really broke through. As long as we follow the mentor's instructions and don't hesitate, we'll definitely break through. Originally, we had to cultivate for decades or even hundreds of years, but with the mentor's guidance, we broke through in 5 minutes. It's too scary. In the dean's office, the dean was relieved when he saw Emo Shi guiding the students to break through immediately again. He looked at the parents again and saw that their eyes were also full of shock. The dean took back Long Wei and said to the parents, "I'm sorry. I had to do that just now." However, the parents didn't take the fact that the dean used Long Wei to suppress them, because at this time they were all shocked by what they saw just now. "Dean, this is true." With some guidance, she broke through immediately in 5 minutes. "My son didn't lie to me." "Dean, quickly let him guide my daughter. My daughter hasn't broken through for 30 years. Only Jin Jian's father hated that he couldn't go up and give his son 2 tight slaps when he saw this. Of all people to suspect, he had to suspect Mentor Imo. Now Mentor Imo won't let you break through. What should you do? Just tell me what you should do." Next, Imo sure guided the students one by one. Those students broke through immediately one after another. In the end, only 2 people were left. One was Jin Jian, the other was Tuqing. Jin Jian's father was so anxious that his head was full of sweat. "Dean, please talk to Mentor Imo. I'll do whatever you want. As long as he agrees to let my son break through, I'll pay any price." The dean chuckled and said, "Don't worry, Mentor Su is just teaching Jin Jian a lesson. In fact, he still values your son very much. Otherwise, why would he ask your son to break through first?" Jin Jian's father was slightly relieved when he heard this. In fact, the reason why Imo sure asked Jin Jian to break through first was that he had plundered the memories of all the students. He knew clearly what these students were thinking. Jin Jian was the one who doubted him the most among all the students. He originally planned to ask Jin Jian to come out and set a negative example to make an example out of him. He didn't expect Jin Jian to come out by himself and hit the muzzle of the gun. At this time, Imo sure looked at Tuqing. Then he looked at Jin Jian. He said, "Jin Jian, I'll give you 3 days to reflect." "Yes." Chapter 597. This time, Golden Sword did not dare to hesitate anymore. He did not dare to have any doubts about Imo Shi's orders. When he saw the other students breaking through under the guidance of the teachers, he had already made up his mind. From now on, he would not have the slightest doubt about any of the teachers' words. When the teachers, including the dean, saw that Imo Shi had grasped almost all the attributes knowledge, they could not help but open their eyes wide. How many attributes has Teacher Imo grasped? It's simply unbelievable. There are 20 students in this class and they all know the metal, wood, water, fire and earth attributes. Just now, there was also an ice and space attributes. It's already very dangerous to know all the 5 elements, but he even grasped the ice and space attributes, these rare attributes knowledge. This is simply unimaginable. The dean was also dumbfounded. These parents only knew that Imo Shi had grasped 7 attributes. But the dean knew that other than these attributes, Imo Shi had also grasped the lightning attribute knowledge. At this moment, he no longer doubted that Imo Shi had grasped almost all the attributes theoretical knowledge. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, ice, lightning, wind, poison, time and space. One person grasped so many attributes knowledge. How did this guy learn? Could it be that he did not cultivate? Did he use all his time to study theoretical knowledge? But before he only used Long Wei to suppress so many students. This means that he is very likely a super-evolved giant dragon. In other words, the amount of time he had to cultivate was definitely not little, even more than an ordinary giant dragon. Then how did he grasp all this knowledge? Could it be that he is a time attribute giant dragon? But the time attribute is extremely rare. Currently, in the entire 10,000 dragon star field, there are less than 10 people with the time attribute. Every time attribute giant dragon would be roped in by those big forces. How could he come to the small Cloud Sea planet and teach in the Cloud Sea Academy? It seems that I have to find Teacher Imo to understand all of this. At this moment, Imo Shi continued to speak to Golden Sword. 3 days later I will see your performance. Yes. Golden Sword said again. Then Imo Shi looked at the tall and mighty Tuqing. This guy is almost 2 sizes bigger than me. According to Imo Shi's understanding, before Tuqing entered the academy, he was an absolute genius there. However, ever since it had evolved into a rank 1 colossal dragon and entered the Ocean of Clouds Academy, it hadn't advanced another rank. And because he was too tall, he was at least 2 meters tall. His movements seemed to be somewhat inconvenient. Because of these 2 reasons, many people rolled their eyes and mocked him. At the beginning, Tuqing Earth City also felt inferior for a while. But later on, he gradually became thick-skinned. He began to give up on himself and went all out. Thus he did not cultivate much. He could be said to be the most useless student in the entire academy. He looked tall and strong, but in fact, any random student in the academy would be able to beat him to a pulp. At this time, Tuqing Earth City's eyes, which have not appeared in brilliance for decades, are full of eager eyes. Instructor Emo, it's my turn. It's my turn. Emo sure nodded and turned to the rest of the students. Today's class has been going on for half a day. You should all rest. As for touching Earth City, come with me. As he spoke, his mind flickered. The two of them instantly disappeared from the classroom. The surrounding students thought that they had teleported nearby. However, through exploration they found that the instructor and touching Earth City were not nearby, not even in the academy. Touching Earth City's father saw this scene and asked the dean in surprise, "Dean, this?" The dean smiled and shook his head. "Don't worry, Instructor Emo just took touching Earth City to a place." As soon as the voice fell, Emo sure and touching Earth City reappeared in the place where they had just disappeared. At this time, touching Earth City did not have the previous decadence and self-abandonment look. Instead, he had a confident smile on his face. He disappeared for less than 3 seconds. How could he suddenly change into another person? Touching Earth City's father's eyes were wide open. He even wondered if Instructor Emo had stuffed other people's souls into his son's body. Touching Earth City, get ready today. From tomorrow onwards, you will practice according to my method. Yes. Touching Earth City's face was full of smiles and gratitude. All the students in the classroom and the parents in the dean's office were dumbfounded. Where did they go in the last 3 seconds? What did Instructor Emo say to touching Earth City? In fact, within 3 seconds, Emo sure took touching Earth City to the Earth space. The scene replayed. In the Earth space, Emo sure and touching Earth City suddenly appeared. Touching Earth City looked at the completely unfamiliar planet and asked, "Instructor, where is this?" Emo sure said, "This is a planet." Touching Earth City asked, "Instructor, why did you bring me here?" Emo sure, "You don't have to cultivate. Even if you cultivate until you die, you won't be able to advance another level." Touching Earth City. "Instructor, I know my talent is poor, but it shouldn't be so bad, right?" Emo sure, "Your talent is not bad. Being able to enter the Cloud Sea Academy shows that your talent is much better than the average giant dragon." Then, why have all my classmates advanced in the past few decades, but I'm still in the same place? Not to mention that I didn't advance, my energy didn't even increase by a bit. My dad and those instructors have thought of many ways, but it didn't work. Emo sure said, "Because you have a planetary body?" After a planetary body evolves to a level 1 dragon, the realm will no longer advance. Touching Earth City's eyes widened. A planetary body? You mean a terrifying existence that can eventually turn the body into an entire planet? Isn't that just a legend? Emo sure, many legends are true. From the first time he saw touching Earth City, the eye of the demon dragon let him know that this guy was an incredible planetary body. Touching Earth City then asked, "But according to legend, a planetary body depends on perception to continue to grow stronger. And in the millions of years of the giant dragon's history, there have been more than 10,000 planetary bodies, but only one giant dragon has achieved a true planetary body. The success rate is so low that it makes the dragon's hair stand on end." Emo sure nodded. "That's because they didn't realize anything at the end of their lives." Touching Earth City's expression dimmed. "Instructor, do you think someone as stupid as me will realize it before the end of their lives?" Emo sure said, "With my method, even an idiot will be able to comprehend it in the end." Touching Earth City heard this and immediately became excited. "Really?" The next moment, Emo sure's mind moved. Touching Earth City's entire body began to expand rapidly. Slowly, it turned into a boulder, a mountain range until it became an entire planet. At this time, touching Earth City was the planet, and the planet was touching Earth City. Emo sure said to the huge planet that had just appeared above Earth, "Now that you're a planet, feel it carefully." After saying that, he sped up the time again. In just a short moment, it was as if tens of billions of years had passed. Tens of billions of years was enough for a planet to slowly take shape from nothing. What Emo sure wanted was for touching Earth City to slowly feel this process. Chapter 598. From an outsider's perspective, Emo sure and touching only disappeared for 3 seconds. But in reality, after Emo sure brought him to Earth, he sped up the passage of time in Earth's space. 3 seconds is equivalent to 10 billion years. Some say this is too exaggerated? Come on, Emo sure is the god here. Here, he is the omniscient and omnipotent creator. There is nothing he can't do. In this accelerated time of 10 billion years, Tuching has been feeling the changes in his body. He seems to have understood something. Then Emo sure stuffed Tuching into Earth's core with another thought. Letting him stay inside for 10 billion years, letting him keep feeling. After 10 billion years, Tuching's eyes lit up as soon as he came out. Mentor, I've realized something. Mo sure said, using my method even a fool can realize it, am I right? Tuching nodded excitedly. Then, his entire body began to change rapidly. He directly revealed his dragon body. The 1,000-meter-long dragon body began to change. The color of the scales on it was constantly changing. It slowly turned into the color of a stone. His entire body was like a boulder that hasn't moved for thousands of years. The spikes on his back were also constantly changing. They looked like trees that had grown out of a boulder thousands of years ago. Mo sure tried to attack a few times, then nodded and said, not bad. The current you can withstand the attacks of a 7th order evolved dragon at most. When you turn into a stone form, dragons below the 7th order can't do anything to you, including 7th order. Tuching was suddenly overjoyed. Previously he was only a rank 1 evolved giant dragon. Dragons below the 1st order could bully him. He didn't expect that dragons below the 7th order couldn't do anything to him. This change was so great that it was shocking. Mo sure continued, from now on, I will take you to experience the growth of a planet every day. I believe that it won't be long before your strength will far surpass others. Tuching hurriedly said, thank you, Mentor. Finally he asked another question. Mentor, where is this place? An illusion I created, Mo sure said. Tuching Earth City was very surprised. Could a teacher create such a realistic illusion? It was said that some giant dragons could create illusions, but those illusions always had some flaws and weren't too realistic. Only those extremely powerful super-evolved dragons could create illusions that could not be seen through. Could it be that Tutor had already become a super-evolved dragon? Thinking of this, he looked at his mentor in surprise. However, Mo sure had already brought him back to the classroom with a single thought. Then he said to Tuching Earth City, it's best not to mention this to anyone. Tuching Earth City also replied, don't worry, teacher. I'm not stupid enough to ruin my future with my own hands. He knew that only Mo sure could bring him into that illusory realm. In that illusion, Mo sure could speed up the passage of time, allowing him to feel the growth of a planet in a very short period of time. If he told the others and angered the tutor, he would be the only one who would suffer. In the dean's office, Tuching Earth City's father saw that everyone else had broken through, only his son had not broken through. He couldn't help but feel anxious. But the expression on his son's face suddenly changed. He was no longer as decadent as before, but full of confidence and gratitude to Mo sure. He knew that something must have happened in between. So after school he went to find his son. On the way home with his son he asked, you didn't break through? Tuching Earth City shook his head, no breakthrough in level. But under the guidance of my mentor, my strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Father Tuching Earth frowned slightly, everyone else has broken through, only you haven't. Even if your strength has improved by leaps and bounds, how strong can it be? Tuching Earth City said, so strong that I can use my body to withstand the attack of any giant dragon below the 7th order. Tuching Earth City's father suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at his son. He wanted to see if his son was exaggerating. However, from his son's eyes and face, he could not see any evasiveness. In other words, his son was telling the truth. He couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. That Mentor Mo was so amazing? Just 3 seconds of guidance, and his son's strength suddenly became strong enough to withstand the attack of a 7th order evolved giant dragon with his body? This was more awesome than taking drugs. Tell me what the hell is going on? Tuching Earth City shook his head. The mentor said, let me not talk to others. Oh. Since when did your father become an outsider? Father Tuching Earth was so anxious that he directly burst out swearing. Tuching Earth City was still very firm. If I tell others casually and annoy the mentor, he will never teach me again. When Tuching Earth City said this, Father Tuching Earth could only shake his head helplessly. Okay, I won't ask. But then again, what's the matter with the planetary body? Tuching Earth City said, it's talking about my physique. I have a planetary body, so it's useless to cultivate again. But with the mentor's method, I can even turn my body into a planet in the future. My defense is also at the planetary level. Tuching Earth City's father wondered, planetary body? It said that it's a genius body that may only appear once in 100 years. In fact, the success rate is very low. At most, only 1 in 10,000 planetary bodies can eventually achieve a planetary body. So this planetary body is also called a waste body. Tuching Earth City's eyes were full of confidence. Dad, you can rest assured. With the mentor, I have absolute confidence that before graduation, I can reach the level where I can use my body to withstand the attack of a 10th order evolved dragon. Hiss. Father Tuching took a breath of cold air. If that's the case, his son is equivalent to being invincible below the 10th order evolved dragon. Then the future of his Tuching family is promising. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but secretly look forward to it. He said, "Your mentor is a really capable person. You have to have a good attitude in front of him in the future. Don't be like before. You always cause me trouble for no reason." "Don't worry, Dad. With such a mentor around, if I don't seize the time and make good use of the time before graduation, then I'm a fool." Father Tuching saw that his son finally knew how to make progress, and his eyes couldn't help but be slightly hot. After his son found that he had not broken through in the past 3 years, he gradually became decadent. He had been decadent until now. He could only comfort himself that his son came to the college to get a graduation certificate. He never expected that this new mentor would bring such a huge change to his son. Chapter 599. Immortality used one class to conquer all the students. Apart from Earth City and Golden Sword, all the students advanced by 1 level. However, it was far from enough to advance by 1 level. Their combat strength did not increase significantly. So Immortality applied to the school to take these students out for training. Every homeroom teacher and mentor had a chance to take the students out for training every semester. The previous homeroom teacher, Jean Pontu, had not taken the students out for training this semester. On Earth, when the teachers took the students out, they were all trembling with fear. Some were afraid of danger and some were afraid of accidents. If something happened, they would not be able to explain it to their parents. However, in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, the giant dragons' physiques were extremely strong. As long as they were not killed on the spot, even if they were seriously injured, they could usually recover in a short time. Therefore, the teachers were free to bring the students out for training. Before leaving, the dean designated an area for Immortality. This is the Misty Mountains. You can train in the southern area of the mountains. The star beasts here are around 100 to 150 years old. The northern part of the Misty Mountains is shrouded in thick fog all year round. Moreover, the mountains are high and the forests are dense. It has become the hiding place of many dragon bandits. It is said that there are as many as 600 to 700 dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains. Therefore you must not go there. The dean knew that Immortality was very likely a super-evolved giant dragon and was not afraid of these dragon bandits at all. However, he still had to give the necessary instructions. Hearing the dean's words, Immortality could not help but be secretly happy. "If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. Since you said so, I naturally have to go." The next morning, Immortality took the students and set off for the Misty Mountains. When the students heard that they were going out for training, they were all very excited. They looked forward to going out for training every semester. However, when they reached the forest in the southern part of the Misty Mountains, Immortality quickly made them realize the reality. All of them could not even deal with a small 100-year star beast cub. This was simply King useless. "What have you been doing for the past 50 years? Immortality was slightly angry. The students looked ashamed. "Instructor, when Instructor Jean brought us out for training, we always worked together to kill star beast cubs. We have never fought a star beast cub alone before." Immortality couldn't help but chuckle. "You're about to graduate. After graduation, unless you join the army, you won't have many opportunities to gather together. Could it be that at that time, when you saw the star beast cubs, you could only run away? You guys think that it's easy for you to find a job after graduating from a famous school. But you never know which comes first, tomorrow or the accident. What if you encounter a baby star beast when you're alone? Even if you go to the army, it will be 1,000 times crueler than here. People like you won't even be able to clean the toilet bowl." After being scolded by Immortality, the students all lowered their heads, not daring to say a word. Even the naughtiest students in the class were stunned by Immortality's scolding. Next, Immortality repeated the training he did for Lei Ren. These students first fought a 100-year-old star beast cub alone. Immortality not only taught them how to exert force, but also how to condense energy in any part of their body. After a short 3 days, these students were already able to deal with 100-year-old star beast cubs. After 10 years, they could deal with 110-year-old star beasts. Then, it was 120-year-old star beasts, 130-year-old star beasts. In the end, no matter their level, almost every student could deal with a star beast cub that was 1 level higher than them. After that, Immortality imparted the various 9 dragon transformations that he had learned before to them. Of course, Immortality only imparted the first and second transformations to them. Just to master the first and second transformations would take a few months. As for the third transformation and beyond, it was purely up to luck. After spending 1.5 months to master the first 2 transformations of these dragons, every student could rely on these 2 transformations to fight against star beasts that were at least 5 levels above them. Some were even able to fight star beasts that were at least 160, 70, 80, and even 80 to 90 years old. If converted to the level of giant dragons, they could basically deal with evolved giant dragons that were at least 6 levels higher than them. And among these students, the one who performed the most outstanding was Jian. Because he was not sincere before, Wuxia told him to break through in 3 days. From then on, he did not hesitate to follow Wuxia's orders. After 3 days, Wuxia told him to start breaking through. As a result, this guy broke through by 2 levels. He jumped from level 4 to level 6 evolved giant dragon. This made the students in the class so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. Every level of a giant dragon's breakthrough was very difficult. At their level, it was considered fast to break through 1 level in 100 years. The mentor took them to break through in 5 minutes, which was enough to shock everyone. As a result, Jian, this guy, actually broke through 2 levels in 10 minutes. It was really too shocking. Now, Jian was one of the 2 students with the highest level in the entire class. And his metal attribute energy was extremely sharp. When he learned to attach metal attribute energy to every part of his body, it was as if every part of his body was equipped with extremely sharp blades. Every move could cut through gold and stone. The only person in the class who did not break through was Earth City. When the mentor taught everyone in the class all kinds of 9 dragon transformations, the only person who did not teach was Earth City. But Earth City did not seem to be disappointed. On the contrary, he was always happy. When the students saw this, they all secretly pitied Earth City. He had been left far behind by the other students and could not make the slightest progress. On the surface, he looked indifferent, but in fact, his heart must be very uncomfortable. How could they know that the current Earth City, after a month and a half in Wuxia's space on Earth, had also improved at a rapid pace? Before, he could only turn into a boulder. But now, Earth City could directly turn into a mountain that was 10,000 meters tall. What was the use of this mountain? It fell directly from the sky and hit you, would you be afraid? As for the defense, there was nothing to say. This mountain was not like an ordinary mountain that could be easily knocked down by evolved giant dragons. This mountain was extremely tough. It would be extremely difficult to knock down this mountain if one was not a super evolved dragon. In fact, in terms of strength, Earth City was already the strongest among all the students. These students were just fooling around. Under Earth City's attack, destroying a city would not be a problem. However, Wuxia did not let Earth City take action for the time being. If he took action, the others would not have to gain experience. If a mountain came down, those star beast cubs would all be crushed into meat paste, and they would gain experience. Chapter 600. After 2 months of training, the students had mastered all kinds of 9 dragon transformations. Now, almost every student could use all kinds of 9 dragon transformations to defeat opponents that were at least 4 ranks higher. Some of the stronger and sharper attributes, such as Golden Sword, could already be invincible against those below the super-evolved giant dragon. At this time, there were only 5 days left until the graduation exam. The dean had already contacted Wuxia and asked him to bring the students back to the academy as soon as possible. Wuxia agreed. Then he said to the students, "Since you're almost done with your training, I'll bring you to do something big today." The students didn't know what Wuxia meant, but they were all very excited. In the past 2 months, each of them could kill star beast cubs that were above their ranks. He had even hunted and killed a 200-year-old star beast cub. In their opinion, this was already quite an achievement. They didn't expect that in the eyes of their teacher, this was nothing. They were going to do something big next. Did he want them to kill star beast cubs that were more than 200 years old? What a joke, that was an existence equivalent to a super-evolved giant dragon. If they went up, wouldn't they be looking for trouble? But it didn't matter, with their teacher beside them, what did they not dare to do? Although until now they hadn't seen their teacher in action. But they knew that their teacher's strength was definitely that of a super-evolved giant dragon. After all, their teacher had taught them for 2 months, and each of them could defeat enemies that were 4 or 5 ranks higher. Golden Sword was invincible against those below the super-evolved giant dragon. If someone said that their teacher's strength had not reached that of a super-evolved giant dragon, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. When they thought that their teacher was actually a super-evolved giant dragon, these students were very proud. One had to know that in the entire Cloud Sea Star, there were probably only about 10,000 people who had reached the super-evolved giant dragon level. If they knew that their teacher was not only a super-evolved giant dragon, but also the only level 5 super evolved giant dragon on the entire planet who knew how they would feel. Soon, Mo Sure led the 20 students through the entire southern part of the Misty Mountains. They arrived at the ridge of the mountain. Looking from the ridge to both sides, one could see two completely different styles. The southern part of the mountain range was full of green vegetation and lush trees. A wide river like a silver jade belt under the sun floated into the distance. The northern part was completely shrouded in fog. It was impossible to see what was inside. Even if these students used their evolved dragon senses, they couldn't find out what was going on inside. Only Mo Sure's Draconic will could penetrate the mist and see what was inside. One of the students asked, "Instructor, it is said that there are many dragon bandits' lairs in the fog north of the Fog Mountains. Are we still going?" The rest of the students also looked at Mo Sure. The dragon bandits were all outlaws. They didn't care about morals or laws. They only cared about killing dragons to steal their goods and steal their treasures. Mo Sure smiled. "The reason I brought you here today is to suppress the bandits." All the students were stunned. "Instructor, are you sure you're not mistaken? The government has been suppressing it for so many years but to no avail. Now that you've brought 20 students, you want to suppress the bandits? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated?" Mo Sure laughed. "What? You don't dare?" After all, these students were still young and full of vigor. How could they withstand such provocation? Why not? Every one of us can challenge someone 5 levels above us. Golden Sword is invincible below super evolved dragons. What do we have to be afraid of? Actually, there was an important reason that they didn't mention. With a super evolved dragon teacher by their side, what were they afraid of? However, just as they thought of this, Mo Sure shattered their fantasy. "Each of you is stronger than those dragon bandits individually. So I won't take part in suppressing the bandits this time. At most, I'll give you some ideas and guide you from the side. As for whether you'll take care of the dragon bandits or the dragon bandits will take you in, it will depend on your skills." The students were all a little nervous but also a little excited. They had killed many baby star beasts, but they hadn't killed a dragon yet. Mo Sure said, "Follow closely." As he spoke, he flew forward. The group of students behind him hurriedly followed behind. They could only see about 10 meters from here. Even with their perception, they could only see about 100 meters. If they were not careful, they might lose him. Half an hour later, they arrived at the bottom of a cliff. There was a cave under the cliff. According to Mo Sure's detection, there were about 40 dragon bandits inside. But he didn't intend to tell the students the exact number. Otherwise, without a rank 10 Long Yen by their side in the future, would they stop suppressing bandits? Mo Sure said, "The dragon bandits are all valiant and ruthless. They don't follow any rules. We haven't found out how many dragon bandits there are in the cave. You can use 3 to 5 people to lure out some of them. After killing them, immediately retreat. Pay attention to the 2 survivors. Interrogate them separately and see how many dragon bandits there are. If they say the number is about the same, it's true. If the number is wrong, it must be a lie. After killing them, there will definitely be more dragon bandits coming out to investigate. When the time comes, we'll act according to the situation." "Yes." The students spoke one after another. At this moment, the class monitor, Shui Bolin, began to give orders. "Mu Wanqing, Kong Ming, Golden Sword, you 3 go to the entrance of the cave and challenge them. The rest of you lie in ambush. Tuqing, you're the weakest. Hide in the distance. When the battle is about to start, cast an earth element energy shield on each of us. During the battle, see if anyone's shield is broken and immediately mend it. At the same time, pay attention to your own safety. During the battle, no one has time to protect you." The students all agreed. Tuqing looked at Mo Sure. Mo Sure transmitted his voice to him. "Do as she says first." Tuqing nodded. Then he went to find a place to hide more than 50 meters behind. In fact, 50 meters was not a distance at all for a giant dragon. But there was no other way. There was fog everywhere. They had to rely on their perception to distinguish more than 50 meters. If it was any further, even their perception could not see it. As for Mo Sure, he could not only see it with his dragon consciousness. And his demon dragon's eye could also easily see everything in this fog. So it could be said that everything was under his control. At this moment, the rest of the students were hiding more than 20 meters away. Kong Ming, Golden Sword, and Mu Wanqing went to challenge them. Mu Wanqing was a little timid. She walked at the back. Golden Sword had a metallic sword aura and was very sharp. He took the lead and came to a place only 10 meters away from the stone cave door. He shouted, "The dragon bandits inside, listen up. Come out immediately and die." A moment later he saw a dragon bandit inside poking his head out. Chapter 601. The dragon bandit poked his head out and looked around. When he saw Jin Jian and the other two he was stunned. F***ck, is it so exaggerated to send students to suppress bandits now? The dragon bandit had been in society for many years and was extremely experienced. Naturally he could tell at a glance that Jin Jian and the other two were students. Kong Ming snorted coldly. So what if you're students? Students will still destroy you. Hearing this the dragon bandit laughed. Little brother, you're looking down on us dragon bandits too much. If just a few students can suppress bandits, then we might as well quit our jobs. Kong Ming said, cut the crap. Call out all your dragon bandits and let you see if our students can suppress bandits. The dragon bandit probed. Although there was an ambush nearby, there were only a dozen students. He was immediately amused. Which idiot instructor brought the students to train and actually let the students suppress bandits? Can any B-grade instructor do the job now? Then he looked at Immortality, who was not far away. You should be the instructor, right? Did you pull your brain out when you came out for training? Immortality could not be bothered with him at all. Whoosh, a ray of metal attribute energy flashed. The dragon bandit was directly cut in half from head to toe. The eyes of the two halves of his corpse were filled with disbelief. Instant kill? Were the students now so terrifying? But it didn't matter. He was still completely dead. After those brothers in the cave rushed out and destroyed these guys, there was still hope for him to be saved. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, whoosh 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 whoosh, the two halves of the dragon bandit's corpse were all cut into pieces. At this moment, Mu Wanqing saw this and suddenly felt her stomach churn. She couldn't help but squat down and vomit. In the past she killed star beast cubs. After all, they were different species, so killing them didn't seem to make her feel much. But when she saw the corpse of the dragon bandit, who was also a giant dragon, she suddenly felt serious psychological and physical discomfort. Kong Ming's face was also slightly pale. He turned to look at Jin Jian. This guy was too sharp. Wasn't he disgusted at all? Of course, Jin Jian was disgusted. But at this moment he focused all his attention on the cave entrance, so the feeling of disgust was not that strong. Although it was his first time killing a giant dragon, he wanted to prove to his mentor that he was not inferior to any giant dragon. When the dragon bandits hiding in the cave saw this, their hearts trembled. Brothers, these students are not to be trifled with. Not to be trifled with, there are only 20 of them. Including their teachers, there are only 21 of them. There are 60 of us. Can't we beat them? Seeing this, the leader of the bandits frowned. He thought to himself, they haven't experienced the beating of society, so they don't know how ruthless the dragon bandits are. Brothers, let's attack together and destroy these bastards. With a shout, more than 60 people immediately rushed out from the edge. However, right after they rushed out, all of them suddenly stopped moving. The space around them seemed to have been sealed. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how much energy they used, they couldn't move at all. They were shocked. Not good, there's a space attribute giant dragon. The golden sword was the first to strike. His entire being seemed to have become one with the sword. In an instant he attacked the dragon bandits at the very front. Whoosh, the dragon bandits had exploded. The rest of the dragon bandits' expressions changed. They hurriedly struggled with all their might. These students were still lacking in actual combat experience, so they couldn't seize the opportunity of Kong Ming's space imprisonment. They were slightly slower, and the dragon bandits broke free. There were too many people here. Kong Ming's space imprisonment could only imprison them for 3 seconds at most. After these dragon bandits broke free, they all revealed their ferocity. The bandit leader roared angrily, "Kill them!" He could tell that although some of these students were of the space attribute, their levels weren't high. They couldn't imprison them for too long. Moreover, these students didn't cooperate well with each other. In addition, they had 3 times the number of these students. If they still couldn't win, they wouldn't be able to survive. That was why he ordered these brothers to kill these students. These students were indeed lacking in actual combat experience. In addition, they weren't as fierce as the dragon bandits to begin with. The dragon bandits had the aura of desperation, which they couldn't compare to. Therefore, they were at a disadvantage as soon as they started fighting. Whoosh, a student's chest was pierced through. Crack, a student's leg was directly cut off. Puff, at this moment, another student's head flew into the air. Wang Yi pretended not to see this. These students were the top geniuses of their respective families. They were usually doted on by everyone. They had never suffered such a blow before. If they didn't suffer a little now, They might not be able to take it if they had to suffer again when they entered society. Rather than that, it was better to let them suffer now. This way they would grow faster. Soon these students all fell to the ground. Even if they had the Earth attribute light shield of Earth City, they couldn't withstand the attacks of so many dragon bandits. When Immortality saw that one of the students was about to be beaten to death, he used his telekinesis to save him. Immortality snatched the body and head of the student who had lost his head. He put the body and head together, opened his mouth and poured a bottle of medicine inside. In just 5 minutes, the student's head was connected. It was intact. This was the healing medicine that Immortality had received after signing in at the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. If this healing medicine was placed on Earth, an ordinary person would be able to heal any wound instantly after drinking a bottle. It was also because this student had a dragon body that his recovery was so slow. Soon almost all the students fell to the ground. Immortality shook his head slightly and saved them all. Then he shouted to Earth City in the distance, "You're here." When the seriously injured students saw this, they all looked at their teacher in surprise. 19 of them attacked at the same time, but they were still beaten up so badly. Their teacher actually let Earth City go up alone? Wouldn't that be an instant kill? When the dragon bandits saw Immortality's methods, they were also slightly afraid of Immortality. But when they saw that Immortality didn't do it himself, but sent a student up, they laughed. One by one they all laughed. "Ah! So many people can't beat us. Your teacher sent you to your death. You fool, you were deceived by your teacher and you're still working for him." Sigh, what kind of teachers are they now? They're still calling themselves dragon bandits. They tricked students to their deaths. Alright, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. However, Earth City didn't care about the more than 50 dragon bandits. "Go kill him." The bandit leader roared. The other dragon bandits immediately let out a shout and charged towards the Earthen City. Chapter 602. When Tuching appeared alone in front of the 60 dragon bandits, all the students were stunned. "Tuching? Instructor, how can you let him deal with so many dragon bandits alone?" "Instructor, get him to come back." "Tuching, you idiot, come over here." Tuching had always been the one at the bottom of their class. It had been almost 60 years since he entered the academy. His level had never increased. Because of the limited energy in his body, he could not learn any slightly advanced Earth attribute skills. Now there were 19 of them with all kinds of attributes, but they were still defeated by those dragon bandits. Tuching, on the other hand, was facing 60 dragon bandits one by one. This was completely suicide. However, Immortality was not moved at all. Tuching was also not moved. Facing those dragon bandits who were mocking him, he turned around and looked at Immortality. Immortality nodded slightly at him. The next moment, Tuching roared, "Ah!" When those dragon bandits saw this, they could not help but laugh. "That's quite scary. It's okay to scare a little girl. But don't you know who I am?" As they said that, those dragon bandits continued to pounce. They were going to chop Tuching into meat paste. However, at this moment, Tuching suddenly leaped into the air. At the same time, his body rapidly expanded and changed. His skin began to petrify and even his eyes began to petrify. His body no longer looked like a human but like a huge rock. And this huge rock was still growing. In just a moment, it had turned into a mountain 10,000 meters tall, more than 50 kilometers long and wide. When those students saw this, their eyes almost popped out. "Tuching? This? Oh my god." Those dragon bandits who had just pounced over also had a drastic change in expression. They had seen dragons that were tens of thousands of meters long, and they had also seen super-evolved dragons that were 100,000 meters long. But this guy could turn into a 100,000-meter tall mountain. They had never seen it before. In shock, they hurriedly wanted to escape. However, it was too late. That mountain fell from the sky. Rumble, 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 the ground shook violently. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Within a radius of hundreds of kilometers, there was an extremely strong tremor. Trees toppled and birds bugled. As for the area within 50 kilometers, there was no movement at all. Because everything was firmly pressed down by this huge mountain. Rumble, rumble, with a thought, Immortality brought the students away from their original spot. It was floating in the sky more than 60 kilometers away. Looking at his eyes, everything was shaking. It was as if someone was constantly running around with a camera in their hand. The tremors lasted for more than 5 minutes. The smoke and dust that filled the air lasted for a full 15 minutes. When a gust of wind blew and the dust settled, the mountain had already disappeared. A figure could be seen slowly emerging from the dust cloud. It was the unremarkable Tuching. Around him, within a radius of 50 kilometers, the ground had sunk several dozen meters deep. All the trees, rocks, mountains, and rivers inside no longer existed. As for the close to 60 dragon bandits, they had long been crushed into thin pieces of paper. They were like human specimens that had been crushed, sinking deep into the ground. Seeing this scene, except for Tuching, all the students were dumbfounded. Was this still the guy who ranked last in their eyes? It had been almost 60 years since he entered school. This Tuching couldn't do anything but eat first. This kind of student was often the most annoying. So there was no one in the class who had a good relationship with him. He had also given up and lost his drive to improve. In everyone's eyes, this guy was just waiting to graduate and leave. But now, the close to 60 dragon bandits that 19 of them couldn't deal with together were killed by him in one move? Wasn't this 2F** King big of a contrast? And it could actually become such a huge mountain. This was really F** King ridiculous. It seemed that not to mention 60 people, even if it was 600 people, 6,000 people, or even 60,000 people, Tuching could also kill them in one move. It was said that Golden Sword was ignorant below the super-evolved dragon. But looking at Tuching, he was probably infinitely close to the super-evolved dragon. One must know that he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. In everyone's shock, Tuching slowly walked over. Immortality asked with a smile, "How do you feel?" Tuching, "A little disgusting." With that, he vomited all over the ground. After all, it was his first time killing people, killing dragons. And killing so many at once, it would be strange if he didn't feel disgusted. When he was almost done vomiting, a group of students said one after another, "Tuching, you're really something. We were all blind before. Is this the power of the planetary body? Didn't you say before that the planetary body needs to be comprehended, and there is only a 1 in 10,000 chance of successfully comprehending it? I can't see that you usually look like a broken jar, but in fact it's all for us to see. It's only been 2 months and you've already comprehended it to this extent." This was the first time Tuching had been praised by his classmates in the past 60 years. He, who had always had a face as thick as a city wall, scratched the back of his head in embarrassment and laughed twice. "It's not that I comprehended quickly, it's that the mentor taught me well." This was the truth. Although he had a planetary body, he wasn't too smart. With his brain, he wouldn't be able to comprehend it even if he was given 8 lifetimes. It was Immortality who put him in the Earth space so that he could experience hundreds of millions of years in a few seconds. It allowed him to constantly feel the formation of a planet. When he really couldn't comprehend it, Immortality used the omniscience and omnipotence in the Earth space to directly make him comprehend it in an instant. This repeated over and over again, and he was able to reach his current level in more than 2 months. All the students listened and looked at Immortality. They believed that Tuching's words must have been taught well by Mentor Immo. Without Mentor Immo, Tuching probably wouldn't have been able to reach 1 in 10,000 of what he had just done in this lifetime. It wasn't just Tuching. Without the mentor, all of them were still the same as they were 2 months ago. The self-righteous students of Cloud Sea Academy were all complacent. They didn't know what a real fight was, and they didn't know how dangerous the fight with the dragon bandits was. When Mentor Gene Panda left, they were still in a bad mood. They even planned to take over the mentor of their class. Now that they think about it, they were really stupid. If they had really driven Mentor Immo away, it would definitely have been the stupidest thing they had ever done in their lives. Chapter 603. When Tuching Earth City killed nearly 60 dragon bandits in one move, the students were naturally surprised. Even Tuching himself was quite surprised by himself. Although he knew that he could transform into a mountain, he never dared to think that he could kill so many dragons in one move. One had to know that those guys were all of a higher level than him. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 levels higher. This made Tuching's eyes fill with tears. If his parents knew that he could kill so many dragons in one move, he didn't know how excited they would be. But Immortality wasn't excited at all. If he had to say that there was an emotional change, it would be gratification. The kind of gratification a teacher felt when he saw his student improving. At this moment, the system's sexy voice sounded in Immortality's mind. Frowny-faced dragon slaying. 334500. He was 1 step closer to advancing to a rank 6 super-evolved dragon. He reckoned that after exterminating all the dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, he would be able to level up no matter what. Next, Immortality took out some healing potions for the students to apply and consume. The recovery speed of these potions he received from the system was very abnormal. No matter how serious the injuries of the students were, they could recover within 5 minutes. This caused the students to be very surprised. "Teacher, where did you get this healing potion? I'll get my family to buy some too." Emosher smiled and shook his head. It's a secret ancestral recipe, self-made. The class monitor Shui Bolan took the bottle and looked at it. He looked up and asked, "Teacher, can I buy some from you? You can name the price." Shui Bolan wasn't short of money. But was Emosher short of money? What a joke, he didn't need to spend money on cultivation. The Lei family paid for his food, accommodation, and other expenses. Therefore he didn't spend much money usually. He shook his head and said, "These potions of mine are all exclusive. I won't sell them for any price. You guys are my students, so I'm letting you use them for free. If it were anyone else, you can recover on your own." Shui Bolan could only shake his head helplessly. "Alright, rest up. When you guys are fully recovered, we'll head to the next Dragon Bandit's lair." The students didn't have any complaints. Although they had failed to suppress the bandits just now, after that fierce battle, they had experienced the cruelty of real combat. At the same time, they had also learned a lot. They had learned to not hold back when facing their enemies. He had learned that when facing an enemy, he had to put aside all the principles of Jianghu, etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame. Only if he could survive would he have the chance to talk about these things. At the same time, they also learned a lot of combat skills. Some of the moves that they thought were cool before were useless in battle. They learned that in a battle of life and death they should throw away all the fancy tricks. Instead, he used the simplest and most direct movements to greet the opponent's most fatal weakness. They rested for more than half an hour. This half an hour was mainly for the students to recover mentally. His body only needed 5 minutes to recover. However, they had just experienced such a great battle, and it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Emosher had given them half an hour of rest, but it was far from enough for them. But that was exactly what Emosher wanted. According to him, giving these students half an hour of rest was already more than enough. On a real battlefield, the enemy wouldn't be so nice as to give you half an hour to rest. If it was a large battlefield, the beginning of the battle may take a few hours or even more than 10 hours. Would the enemy give me time to rest during this period? When Emosher was on Earth, he faced hundreds of millions of zombies. Who would give you time to rest in the wild at that time? As soon as you encountered a zombie, you had to fight immediately. And at that time, his recovery ability was far less than the current students. Didn't he survive? After half an hour, most of the students had not recovered mentally. Among all the students, only Golden Sword and Tuching Earth City looked normal. Golden Sword had always been sharp, and there was nothing wrong with his quick recovery. Tuching Earth City, on the other hand, didn't participate in any battle at all. Just one move and the other side was finished. Therefore he hardly needed any recovery time. It was just that he had just turned into a mountain, which made him a little tired. The body of a planet is different from the general dragon. The body of a planet doesn't care how much energy there is in the body. It's about perception. As long as you perceive it, even if there is no energy in the body, you can turn into a mountain. The body of a planet only needs physical strength. The better the physical strength, the longer the time you can turn into a mountain. Right now, Golden Sword could only last for more than 10 seconds at a time. Therefore, Emosher had given him 2 tasks these days. One was to perceive the body of a planet, and the other was to train his physical strength. And these could be done in an extremely short time in Earth space. At the same time, Emosher also had a plan. After eliminating the dragon bandits here, he would let these students enter his Earth space for a period of secret training. The reason why he didn't bring them in before was that he wasn't familiar with these students. He didn't know their morals. Now, after a period of understanding, coupled with their admiration for Emosher in their hearts, Emosher was completely at ease with them. The Misty Mountains were very big. With the students' flying speed, it took more than an hour to reach the second Dragon Bandit lair. When they landed in the Dragon Bandit lair, the students looked at the cave entrance and were all very surprised. The Misty Mountains were full of fog. The visibility was less than 10 meters. Even if they used the perception ability of a giant dragon, they could only sense a range of 100 meters at most. Perhaps even the dragon bandits who had been living here all their lives would get lost if they flew in the air like them. How did the instructor distinguish the path? Moreover, these dragon bandits had been here for hundreds of years, and the government couldn't do anything to them. They couldn't find the path here either. How did the instructor know where the dragon bandits were? Of course, they didn't know that their instructor wasn't just a powerful super-evolved giant dragon. He was also a level 10 Long Yanshi. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, Long Yanshi wasn't as strong as on Earth or the Flaming Land. After all, everyone was a giant dragon. It was very difficult to hurt them with Dragon Will. But Dragon Will was still very useful. Its greatest use was to scout out the situation in the surroundings. On the flaming land, the highest was level 10 Long Yanshi. And because Dragon Will didn't add much to battle, very few Long Yanshi would spend the effort to cultivate to level 10. Usually they would cultivate to level 5 or level 6 or level 7 at most. That was because Dragon Will was harder to cultivate at the later levels. And giant dragons would spend more time on their own leveling up, so they naturally didn't pay much attention to cultivating Dragon Will. Chapter 604. Because there were no dragons to focus on cultivating their Dragon Will, Mo Shi's level 10 Long Yanshi surprised these students. Next, Mo Shi let the students analyze the enemy situation and come up with a corresponding attack plan. Occasionally he would give some guidance from the side. Half an hour later, these students finished their analysis and discussion, and then began to implement their plan. Another half an hour later, the plan was successfully implemented. Of course, this plan did not include Earth City. Earth City was too strong. If it killed all of them in an instant, what else was there to plan? And in order to train their abilities, they could not let Earth City kill them in an instant. The result was obvious. These students were beaten up by the dragon bandits until they could not take care of themselves. But this time it was better than last time. This time they first let Kong Ming do a wave of control, then let the Ice Beauty do another wave of control. Then the water element Water Ripple did a wave of control. The 3 consecutive waves of crowd control lasted for a total of 10 seconds. The rest of the students took advantage of these 10 seconds to kill 8 dragon bandits. This made Mo Shi very happy. The most gratifying thing for a teacher was to see the improvement of his students. However, these students killed the 8 dragon bandits, which made the rest of the dragon bandits furious. They crazily took revenge on them. These students were soon beaten to a pulp. At this moment, Mo Shi used the Dragon Will to pull these students back. At the same time, Earth City moved again. It turned into a mountain and pressed down. All the dragon bandits were instantly destroyed. In Mo Shi's mind, the dragon slaying points increased by more than 50. Dragon slaying points, 388,500. In the next 2 days, they destroyed 6 groups of dragon bandits. The students improved more and more. When they destroyed the 6th dragon bandit group, they were no longer being beaten up one-sidedly. Instead, they were able to fight the dragon bandits to a draw. One had to know that their numbers had always been inferior to the dragon bandits. Moreover, these dragon bandits were all people who licked blood on the blade, desperados. With 1/3 of the dragon bandits' numbers, it was already quite an achievement to be able to fight them to a draw. Mo Shi originally wanted to let the students train for a few more days. Unfortunately, there were only so many dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, and they were all wiped out. Mo Shi could not help but shake his head. Squad leader Shui Bolin asked, "Instructor, why did you shake your head? Is it because we didn't do well enough?" Mo Shi asked, "What do you think?" Shui Bolin thought for a moment and said, "Compared to those students of the same level, we have already done very well." Mo Shi shook his head. "It's too small. I've seen someone who, at your level, was already invincible against anyone below the super-evolved colossal dragon." Shui Bolin shook her head. "What's so strange about that? Isn't the golden sword also able to do the same?" Mo Shi smiled. "Jianghu is good at one-on-one fights, but the person I know is good at one-on-one fights. 1 against 100, 1 against 1,000, they're still ignorant of those below the super-evolved colossal dragon." Shui Bolin shrugged his shoulders. "That's not surprising, Tuching Earth City can do 1 against 1,000. Mo Shi shook his head again. Tuching Earth City needs someone to cooperate and control the enemy within the range of his big move to show great lethality. And the person I know doesn't need the cooperation of others at all. Shuttling through thousands of troops, he can also stroll leisurely." Mu Wanqing lowered her head and asked in a low voice, "Instructor, the person you're talking about, is yourself?" Mo Shi smiled but did not answer. The students were all curious. Their tutor was able to train them to such an extent in just 2 months. Their instructor's strength must be extraordinary. It was very likely that he was a super-evolved colossal dragon. But as for how strong their instructor was, they had never seen it. "Instructor, your realm should be a super-evolved colossal dragon, right? Is it rank 1 or rank 2? Tuching Earth City asked. Mo Shi still smiled and did not answer. "If there's a chance in the future, you may see it." Seeing that Mo Shi did not answer their questions, the students could only give up. But in private they guessed that Mo Shi was very likely a rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only about 10,000 rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragons in the entire Cloud Sea Star. With such a person as their instructor, their ancestors' graves would probably be smoking. Of course, there were also people who guessed that he was a rank 2 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only 5 or 6,000 of them in the entire Cloud Sea Star. If their instructor was really rank 2, their ancestors' graves would probably be on fire. As for rank 3 or 4, they did not even dare to think about it. There were only a few hundred rank 3 super-evolved colossal dragons in the Cloud Sea Star. There were only 70 or 80 rank 4 ones. Each of them was a big shot. How could they come to the Cloud Sea Academy to teach students? What they did not know was that when they killed those dragon bandits, Immortality had already advanced to a rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon. A rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon was a unique existence in the entire Cloud Sea Star. Even the Star Lord of the Cloud Sea Star was only a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. In the entire star field, only those who reached rank 5 and above could become Star Lords. In other words, Immortality's strength now did not lose to any Star Lord. Even if his level was lower than theirs, with Immortality's ability to challenge those of a higher level, he could fight them head-on. So on any planet he could walk sideways, vertically, or diagonally. He could walk however he wanted. At this moment, Immortality looked at the dragon slaying points in his mind. Frowny-faced dragon slaying points. 1121000. It would be difficult for him to level up again in the short term. Unless Immortality went on a killing spree and slaughtered all the colossal dragons on the planet. In that case he could quickly become an ancient colossal dragon. But he did not know much about the star field. Who knew if there were some hidden big shots that could kill him with one slap? So now Immortality still adhered to one principle: develop wretchedly and don't be reckless. If he wanted to be reckless, he would nurture these students and let them go out and do whatever they wanted. Since there were no more dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, Immortality planned to bring these students back to the academy to take the final exam. But they had just flown for more than 1,000 kilometers when Immortality suddenly stopped. The students also stopped. Immortality turned to the right and said, "All of you step back." The students knew that when they encountered something stronger than them, the teachers would usually let them deal with it themselves. Now that the teacher was telling them to step back, it meant that this thing was far from what they could deal with. Soon they sensed that thing. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Because within their range of perception, they could not see the full appearance of that thing at all. This was enough to show that the thing was huge. Some students hurriedly turned on their multifunctional watches and opened the Star Beast Cub level test software. Soon the test results were out. And in the past, the test results only showed the level. This time the screen kept flashing with a red light and a warning sound. Warning: you have encountered a 250-year-old Star Beast Cub. It is equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Hearing this, all the students were stunned. 250-year-old Star Beast Cub? Equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. An existence on the same level as a Star Master. Chapter 605. All 20 students were dumbfounded when they saw the feedback on their multifunctional watches. A 250-year-old Star Beast Cub. It was equivalent to a level 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Even if all 20 of them transformed into giant dragons, they would not be able to defeat this Star Beast Cub. Even Earth City, which had a planetary body, was nothing in front of this Star Beast Cub. It could slap him back to his original form with just a tail. All the students looked at Immortality involuntarily. They thought that even the instructor would not be able to do anything in front of this Star Beast Cub. After all, the Star Beast Cub was equivalent to a level 5 super-evolved giant dragon. No matter how strong the instructor was, he was only a level 2 super-evolved giant dragon. There was a difference of 3 levels. How could they fight? Also, they could not turn around and run when they encountered a Star Beast Cub. Because if they ran, it would be equivalent to showing weakness. The Star Beast Cub would chase after them like a dog. Then it would be over. They had never encountered such a situation before. No matter how strong the Star Beast Cub they encountered before was, there was always an instructor behind them. They did not need to panic at all. But this time they were really panicking. However, when they looked at Immortality, they only saw Immortality say to them indifferently, "Don't worry. Wait here." The next moment they flew toward the Star Beast Cub. They did not even have time to shout. Soon, the instructor had already flown out of their perception range. They could only hear a huge sound coming from that direction, as if a meteorite had fallen to the ground. Then there was a huge shockwave that caused the thick fog to tumble. They were also sent flying for about 5 kilometers by this huge shockwave. The next moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. because in their perception the star beast cub was flying toward them. Everyone hurriedly scattered in all directions. The next moment, a star beast cub that was more than 10 kilometers long and shaped like a giant koan streaked across the thick fog in front of them. Just looking at this giant koan made everyone's hair stand on end. In front of this giant koan they seemed so small. Even if they transformed into giant dragons that were thousands of meters long, they were not worth mentioning at all in front of this giant koan. However, this giant koan flew past them for a few seconds before it started to fall rapidly. Finally, it crashed to the ground. The mountain below collapsed with a loud bang. The forest below the mountain was crushed by the huge rocks and the giant leviathan's body, making cracking noises. All the students' faces were filled with shock. More than 10 seconds later, the giant leviathan below remained motionless. Only then did they realize that the giant leviathan wasn't flying towards them. Instead, he was smashed by a huge force. It was as if an invisible giant hand had strangled the giant koan and thrown it over. Moreover, the giant leviathan's entire body had been sealed in ice. When it landed on the ground, ice shards scattered everywhere. Just as they were all trembling in fear, the teacher's figure appeared in the thick fog in front of them. The teacher glanced at them and said, "Let's go." Then he turned around and flew forward. All the students suddenly realized something at this moment. All of them looked at their teacher in disbelief. Wait, this was an instant kill? Teacher actually killed a giant leviathan in seconds? A giant leviathan equivalent to a tier 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. Good heavens! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was so shocked that he couldn't react for a long time. That meant that the teacher was at least a tier 6 super-evolved colossal dragon. After reaching the level of a super-evolved colossal dragon, the gap between each tier was huge. Therefore, a tier 6 super-evolved colossal dragon could easily kill a creature equivalent to a tier 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. Hiss, teacher, he's a tier 6? Oh my god, what did this mean? It meant that the teacher's strength was even stronger than the Star Lord. It meant that on the entire Cloud Sea star, the teacher was undoubtedly the ceiling of combat strength. It meant that as long as the teacher was willing, he could completely take over the ruling rights of a planet. Why aren't you leaving? Are you going to stay here and feed the giant leviathan? Emosher's voice came from the thick fog in front of them. This pulled all the students back to reality. Then they were all extremely excited. They hurriedly followed the teacher's figure. With such a teacher, they didn't know how many good deeds they had done in their previous lives and how much merit they had accumulated. If their relatives and friends knew about this, they would be shocked. Imagining the shocked expressions on their relatives' and friends' faces, they felt a burst of joy in their hearts. However, the teacher seemed to have seen through their thoughts. Don't mention what happened today to anyone, including your parents and friends. As your teacher, I'm used to keeping a low profile and don't want to be disturbed by outsiders. If you mention it, don't blame me for kicking you out of Year 6 Class 3. At the end, Emosher's voice revealed a trace of sternness. At the same time, Longwei instantly spread out. In the hearts of all the students, a sense of competition that seemed to come from their bones suddenly rose up. Then they secretly made up their minds to not reveal a single word to anyone, because the teacher had never been so strict before. If they were to reveal it, with the long way that the teacher displayed, they were afraid that he might really kill them. A teacher killing a student was originally a big deal. But the teacher was an existence that surpassed the Star Lord, so it was a different story. Even the Star Lord couldn't do anything to him, so who would dare to punish him? And they weren't stupid. To be able to follow such a teacher as a student was something that they had cultivated for 8 lifetimes. How could they ruin this opportunity so easily? That afternoon they returned to the academy. Along the way, the students were very respectful to Emosher and were no longer as casual as before. Even if Emosher was more easygoing and even joked with them, they didn't dare to be as casual as before. When they returned to the academy and walked on the tree-lined path in the academy, the students who passed by all covered their mouths and snickered. The students of Class 6 Class 3 naturally knew what they were laughing about. They were laughing at the students of Class 6 Class 3 for being in such a sorry state. Many of their clothes were like beggars and their hair was dirty and messy. They didn't look like students but like they had escaped from somewhere. Even some of the teachers were a little surprised when they saw the students of Class 6 Class 3 like this. Teacher Emo, your class is... Emosher waved his hand and said, let them go to the slums to experience life. Otherwise, if they think that they are students of Cloud Sea Academy, they will always be high and mighty and not down to earth. I'm afraid it will hurt a lot. Those teachers all gave Emosher a thumbs up. Teacher Emo is so thoughtful. Next semester, let our students experience life. When the students of those classes heard this, their faces immediately darkened. As for the students of Class 6, Class 3, although their appearance was sloppy, they were all very proud and arrogant at this moment. When the final exam was in a few days, their Class 6, Class 3 would definitely surprise everyone. Chapter 606. The dean summoned all the teachers for a meeting. When the other teachers arrived, the dean only nodded to them as a greeting. However, when Immortality arrived, the dean stood up and welcomed him. He said warmly, "Teacher Immortality is here. Come and sit." This made the other teachers feel strange. The dean had always been very calm. Even in the face of a landslide, his expression would not change. Why was he so enthusiastic when he saw Teacher Immortality today? Of course, they did not know that the dean had guessed that Immortality was a super-evolved dragon. As for Immortality, who was also a super-evolved dragon, the dean naturally had a higher opinion of him than the other teachers. After all the other teachers had arrived, the dean started the meeting. The content of the meeting was about the final exam. We have chosen to hold the final exam on the nearby Cloud Ridge planet. Cloud Ridge planet was a satellite of Cloud Sea planet. It was similar to the relationship between Earth and the Moon. Cloud Ridge planet was not big and it had not been developed before. It was completely untouched. The entire surface of Cloud Ridge planet was covered by plants. There were hundreds of millions of star beast cubs on Cloud Ridge planet. Occasionally, some schools would hold tests or exams here. The dean said, "For this final exam, every student in every class will enter Cloud Ridge planet to hunt star beast cubs. In the end, we will choose the 20 students with the highest level and the highest number of star beast cubs to participate in the 100-star competition during the summer break." The so-called 100-star competition was a competition where each planet would send out 20 of their strongest students to participate in the competition. It was held every 4 years. It was the most important competition for these planets. Logically speaking, the schools of Cloud Sea planet should compete to choose the 20 most outstanding students. However, the Ocean of Clouds Academy had the ability to monopolize all 20 of them. Because according to the experience of previous years, the 20 spots would be taken by Cloud Sea Academy in the end. Therefore, after some discussion, they decided that there was no need to go through so much trouble to hold the internal competition of Cloud Sea planet. That would be a waste of time and dragon power. It was better to just give all the spots to Cloud Sea Academy. The dean continued to speak and finally asked all 42 teachers, "Does anyone have any opinions or suggestions? Feel free to voice them out." The teachers all shook their heads. The dean smiled and asked Immortality, "Teacher Immortality, do you have anything to say?" All the instructors were shocked once again. It seemed like the dean valued Instructor Immortality a lot. What kind of background did he have? They didn't believe that Instructor Immortality was that strong. To be valued by the dean, one had to be at least at the super-evolved dragon level. Could this Instructor Immortality be a super-evolved dragon? What a joke. Immortality smiled and replied, "That's right. I think that if it's fair, all 20 slots will be given to us. That way we won't have to waste time fighting for a spot." As soon as this was said, there was a moment of silence. Wasn't Instructor Immortality too arrogant? Even if the dean thinks highly of you, you don't have to be so arrogant. Did he have any respect for the other instructors? This was especially true for the mentors of the graduating classes. They were all enraged. "Instructor Immortality, don't you think you're exaggerating? Instructor Immortality, how long have you been here? You don't know the strength of the other classes. We don't blame you. But by saying such big words, you are not giving face to the other teachers of the other classes. Especially the teacher of Year 1 Class 0, Yu Yanran, who had a fiery temper." She slammed the table and stood up. "Instructor Immortality, don't think that just because you're leading a graduating class, the students in your class are stronger than the first years. Lei Ren from our class is strong enough to kill anyone in your class." "Hee hee," Immortality laughed. He sensed Lei Ren passing by the conference room. He immediately shouted, "Lei Ren, come in." The conference room door was pushed open and Lei Ren walked in. When all the instructors saw Lei Ren, they couldn't help but size him up carefully. Yu Yanran had always been high profile. Such a genius from their class could actually challenge someone who was 5 ranks higher than him in the first year. Yu Yanran naturally wanted to publicize this matter. So much so that the entire academy already knew about Lei Ren. It wouldn't be a problem for this guy to challenge those 6th years. A mentor said, "Among the 20 spots, at least one of them should be Lei Ren. Yeah, he's the only one in our academy who can challenge opponents who are 5 ranks higher. I think that if it's really fair, Lei Ren should be the one who gets a spot without having to compete." Recently, there had been news about the final exam. Lei Ren had also heard some of it. Now that he heard these mentors say this and saw that they seemed to be targeting Immortality, he shook his head. No, no, no. You guys think too highly of me. Instructor Mo's students are far from what I can compare to. I think the top 20 should all be in Instructor Mo's class. Just give it to them directly and save time. The other mentors were stunned when they heard this. Especially Yu Yanran, who was dumbfounded. Lei Ren was usually very arrogant in the class. Not only in the class, even in the entire academy he wasn't afraid of the 6th years at all. After all, his strength was there. Many 6th years had to take a detour when they saw him. Why was he so afraid when he saw Immortality? Yu Yanran slapped Lei Ren. Why are you so cowardly? How is this the usual you? Lei Ren laughed dryly and said, actually, my abilities were all taught by Instructor Mo before I entered the academy. Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. I was just a good-for-nothing playboy before and he could teach me like this. Most of the students in the 3rd class are geniuses. Instructor Mo has taught them for so long. Their strength must have improved by leaps and bounds. So I'm not a coward. I know my own name. By the way, Dean, can I transfer directly to Instructor Mo's class? As soon as this remark came out, everyone present looked at each other. Lei Ren was also taught by Instructor Mo? The Dean and Yu Yanran had already known this. Yu Yanran snorted coldly. Lei Ren, you little traitor. Don't say that you are a student of our class in the future. Lei Ren was not afraid of Yu Yanran at all. Instead, he said directly to the Dean, Dean, you see, Instructor Yu doesn't want me anymore. I'm homeless. Please be merciful and let me transfer directly to the 3rd class of the 6th year. Yu Yanran was so angry that she gritted her teeth. The Dean also shook his head and smiled bitterly. Although your strength is good, you still lack various theoretical knowledge. You have to start learning from the 1st grade. And don't you live with Instructor Mo? You can learn from him after school in the afternoon. Chapter 607. Mo sure said arrogantly in the meeting room that they should be given to class 6 to 3. Of course, the dean couldn't really give them to class 6 to 3. The participants had to be selected through the academy's final exam. Following that, every class in the academy entered a state of intense preparation. Especially the 6th grade. They had studied for nearly 60 years and had experienced all kinds of theoretical knowledge and practice many times. In addition, their average level was the highest among all the grades, so theoretically, they had the highest chance of getting a place. Therefore, their preparation work was even more intense. Their homeroom teacher basically spent the rest of his time in class these few days, other than eating and sleeping time. He told the students what to pay attention to, explained the knowledge of all kinds of star beast cubs, and explained all kinds of high-end combat techniques. The busiest classes were Class 6 to 1 and Class 6 to 2. Class 6 to 1 was an elite class and Class 6 to 2 was not far behind. In the final exam every year, the results of these two classes were in the top 3. The teachers of these two classes were far more serious and responsible than the teachers of the other classes. They couldn't wait to eat and live with the students. In the entire academy there was only one class. There was not the slightest bit of tension before the exam. Mo sure still walked around the classroom every day and let the students prepare for the exam. When he had nothing to do, he would stay in the library and read electronic books to understand everything about the 10,000 Dragon Star region. When it was time, he would get off work on time and not stay for a minute longer. Every time at 5 p.m., after he got off work and left, the other homeroom teachers would always show a trace of disdain. This kind of teacher did not have a trace of seriousness and responsibility. When teacher Jean Ponta was here, Class 6 to 3 was always first in the grade. In terms of results, discipline, and other aspects, no one could find any fault with them. But now, Teacher Mo? It was said that other than allowing the students to rise by one level, he was practically useless in other aspects. He couldn't teach theoretical knowledge and he didn't know about the various skills. He came to the academy as a complete loser. He even said that all the spots should be given to his class. What a joke. If they were given to his class, it would be the biggest joke. Just like that, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, more than 800 students in the academy boarded a giant ship that was more than 10,000 meters long and flew to Cloud Billow Star. The other academies didn't have such a giant ship. In the entire Cloud Sea Star, only the Cloud Sea Academy had a single one. Even though it was a 10,000-meter long giant ship, it was still extremely fast. In just over half an hour, they arrived at the Cloud Ridge Star. The captain chose a slightly flatter place and stopped. Then he set up a protective shield within a radius of 50 kilometers. In this way, the area within a radius of 50 kilometers around the giant ship was an absolute safe zone. Everyone can rest and exercise here. However, for these students, there was no opportunity to move at all. As soon as the giant ship landed, it meant that the examination had begun. They had to make the best use of their time and kill as many star beasts as possible within 3 days. Every student was equipped with a tracking device and a camera. If they were in danger, the academy's instructors could quickly rush to their location. Every teacher returned to their own rooms and watched their students in front of the monitor. At the same time, there was a huge screen in the control room. On it were real-time images taken by the cameras carried by all the students. If any student was in danger, the computer would immediately analyze it and then magnify the image of the student in danger and display it. Immortality scanned with his dragon's will. Within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there weren't any strong star beasts. The strongest one was only 170 years old, which was equivalent to a rank 7 evolved giant dragon. For his students, any one of them could take on these star beasts alone. Only Tuching was able to do so because Immortality had been teaching him how to comprehend the formation of a planet and hadn't taught him any skills. However, he was able to use Mount Tai's crushing down every time. Therefore, he seemed to be in a sorry state. When he encountered a star beast cub, he would often fight it with his bare hands. Moreover, he didn't use any moves or skills. It was completely a tortoise's fist. However, because he had a planet body, he was extremely strong. When facing a star beast cub that was 3 or 5 levels higher than him, he only needed one punch to knock it to the ground. As the screen was divided into 800 small panels, it displayed the images of 800 students. Therefore, the dean and the others hadn't noticed this yet. At this moment, Immortality didn't pay attention to this. Instead, he carried a pot of tea and went to the top of the giant ship. He sat on the deck, enjoying the breeze, drinking tea and admiring the scenery of Cloud Ridge Planet. The biggest characteristic of this place was one word: green. Looking around, the entire surface was covered in green plants. The air was naturally fresh. If there weren't outsiders, he would have let them out to enjoy the beautiful scenery together. At the same time, in the main control room, after the dean and the leaders of the academies confirmed that everything was on track, they said, "Show me the images of the students of class 6 to 3. Others didn't know, but he knew. Instructor Mo of class 6 to 3 was a super-evolved giant dragon. Since he dared to say that all the slots should belong to class 6 to 3, there must be something special about him. Soon, the 20 students of class 6 to 3 were magnified and displayed on the big screen. When all the instructors saw the students of class 6 to 3 on the big screen, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The golden sword was an extremely sharp energy sword. Wherever it passed, it was basically insta-killed. A 110-year star beast cub, insta-killed. A 150-year star beast cub, insta-killed. A 170-year star beast cub, insta-killed. It wasn't just the golden sword. The other students might not be able to insta-kill them, but it was very easy for them to deal with these star beast cubs. All kinds of moves and skills emerged one after another. It was dazzling. Moreover, the recruitment of these students basically didn't have any fancy moves. They were usually the simplest and most practical. Compared to the students of class 6 to 3, the other students were like a group of babies who had just learned to walk. In class 6 to 3, the only student who looked to be in a sorry state was Earth City. However, the instructors didn't have much hope for him. He was famous for being at the bottom of the rankings in the academy. Since the first year, he hadn't advanced by 1 rank and hadn't learned a skill of the corresponding rank. However, just as they casually scanned the image of Earth City, their gazes froze. The casual expressions on their faces turned into extreme shock. Chapter 608. When the mentor's eyes casually scanned through the image of Earth City, they were all suddenly nailed to the frame of Earth City. The dean's eyes were also fixed on the image of Earth City. Then he hurriedly said, "Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in on this student." Soon, the image of Earth City appeared in the center of the screen, completely covering the other images. On the screen, Earth City was in a sorry state. There were no skills or energy weapons. When a pangolin rampaged, breaking dozens of giant trees and pouncing towards him, Chu Feng was stunned. He looked left and right but couldn't find any place to hide. Left with no other choice, he could only awkwardly leap high into the air. When the pangolin beast came under him, he directly used his fist to smash the pangolin beast's head that was as big as a small mountain. Bang! The pangolin's huge head was suddenly smashed to the ground. Boom! The ground below had sunk more than 10 meters deep. It formed a huge pit with a radius of about 5 kilometers. At the same time, poof, the pangolin's head directly exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. The entire huge pit was suddenly covered with thick and sticky flesh and brain matter. All the mentors who saw this scene were so shocked that they couldn't say a word for a long time. Until a moment later, a mentor opened his mouth and said, "This is too strong. Just relying on physical strength he can kill a pangolin that is 5 levels higher. This guy is too strong." The pangolin's body is very hard, it can often easily smash through a mountain. Its head is also very hard. Often many evolved giant dragons use energy weapons to form weapons, but it is difficult to penetrate the scales on its head. But this Earth City blew it up with one punch. Tsk, this guy is really too shocking. At this time Earth City in the image jumped out of the huge pit of flesh and blood. His whole body was blood red. Maybe it was the smell of blood that attracted other star beast cubs. Soon another hammerhead beast ran over. This was also a strength type and defense type star beast cub. Earth City seemed to be chased to the point where he couldn't hide. And because the hammerhead beast was too fast, he didn't even have the chance to jump up this time. He could only turn back, bite the bullet and extend his right fist. With his bare fists he directly collided with the hammerhead beast's huge head. The hammerhead beast's head was about 100 meters tall and 500 meters wide. With his human body, it looked like a mosquito trying to hold up the head of an elephant. However, under such circumstances, the hammerhead beast was blasted more than 10 kilometers away by his attack. After landing on the ground, his head, which was almost invulnerable, actually cracked inch by inch. In the next moment it exploded. One had to know that this hammerhead beast had reached 170 years of age, which was equivalent to a rank 7 giant dragon. In other words, Tuching Earth City crossed the 6th order punch and killed the hammerhead beast. This was simply too shocking. Apart from the dean, all the other instructors present were filled with shock. None of these instructors could defeat an enemy that was 6 levels higher than them. It was impossible for him to even take a single blow head-on, let alone kill him with a single blow. Next, they saw that in just half an hour, this guy basically circled one small beast at a time. It was simply unstoppable. It's hard to imagine how Tuching Earth City can become so strong. Previously, he had always been at the bottom of the 6th years. Now he is like the first echelon of the 6th years. He, Golden Sword, Kongming, and the others are the top of the 6th years. Yes, I think so. Actually, they did not know that Tuching Earth City was not in the first echelon. Instead, he was the strongest existence among all the 6th years. An existence that could instantly kill hundreds of dragon bandits. Obviously, Tuching Earth City only changed like this after Instructor Mo took over. In the past 50 years he has never displayed such strength. His strength has not changed at all for more than 50 years. Instructor Mo has only taken over for half a semester, and he has gone from the bottom of the entire academy to the first echelon in one fell swoop. This is simply inconceivable. Not only him, all the other students in Class 63 are ridiculously strong. They are more than 10 times stronger than when Instructor Jean was leading them. Everyone can fight 2 or 3 levels higher or even 3 or 4 levels higher. It's simply terrifying. Now I'm beginning to believe what Instructor Mo said before. At this moment, what the dean was thinking about was the planetary body that Mo sure had mentioned before. He naturally knew about the planetary body. The planetary body was very strong, but it required time to comprehend. But it took too much time to comprehend. Often, dragons with planetary bodies would die of old age before they could comprehend anything. Only 1 in 10,000 could truly achieve a planetary body. That would require thousands or even tens of thousands of years to comprehend. But after Mosher took over Class 63, it had only been 3 months, and Tuching Earth City had already reached such a powerful level of strength. How did he do it? After the dean heard Mosher say that Tuching Earth City was a planetary body, he was thinking about how to provide better conditions for Tuching Earth City and how to think of a better way for him to comprehend. But in the past 3 months he could not think of any substantial help. But he did not expect that in just 3 months, Mosher would help Tuching Earth City become so powerful. From the looks of it, he was probably invincible below the super-evolved dragon. This made him even more surprised by Mosher. How did he do it? He used his perception to investigate. At this moment, Mosher was leisurely drinking tea on the deck. The other instructors were in their respective rooms, nervously staring at the screen. Comparing the two, it was obvious who was better. Soon it was the second day. The instructors of the academy all came to the main control room early the next morning, because they wanted to see the results of the other students. Especially the instructors of Class 61 and Class 62, their hearts were filled with excitement, and their footsteps were exceptionally light. The results of the students in their 2 classes were very outstanding. Basically, every student had killed at least 10 Star Beast cubs. According to the historical exam results, being able to kill so many Star Beast cubs on the first day was already very good. However, when they came to the central control room, they saw that the big screen did not show the other students. Only 20 students were shown. They were all students of Class 63. Tuching Earth City, 57, Golden Sword, 55, Ice Beauty, 53, Shui Bolan, 49, Mu Wanqing, 48, Kong Ming, 48. The student with the least number had reached 39. The best student had 15 more than the students in their 2 classes. This caused the 2 instructors of Class 61 and Class 62 to be stunned. At this moment, the conversation of a few leaders could be heard. They killed too quickly. There were not many Star Beast cubs around for them to kill, so they could only look around. That's right. They wasted all their time on traveling and searching for Star Beast cubs. Otherwise, I'm afraid that each of them would have killed over 100 Star Beasts today. The 2 instructors of Class 61 and Class 62 were petrified. Chapter 609. When the teacher in charge of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 heard the words of the leaders, they were petrified. Class 6-3 was too much of a beast, right? How could their combat power be so strong? Could it be that they were only killing low-level Star Beasts? Thinking of this, there was still a glimmer of hope in their hearts. Then they continued to walk inside. When they came to the front of the big screen and saw the performance of the students on the screen, the 2 of them were petrified again. On the big screen, most of the students in Class 6-3 were on their way to find Star Beast cubs. There were only 4 of them. One of them was Golden Sword and the other was Tuching. Golden Sword condensed a Golden Sword aura in his right hand and instantly swept past the side of a 170-year-old Star Beast cub. Hiss! The Star Beast cub's head was directly cut in half. It was killed on the spot. Tuching was even more direct. Facing a 150-year-old Star Beast cub, he actually used his fist to fight against the Star Beast cub's teeth. When the Star Beast cub opened its huge mouth and bit down on him, he punched out. Crack! The Star Beast cub's sharp teeth were directly broken. At the same time, this punch also exploded the Star Beast cub's entire head. Hiss! When the teacher in charge of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 saw this, both of them gasped in shock. Most of the students in their 2 classes would probably take a detour when facing a 150-year-old Star Beast cub. Even if there was someone who could defeat a 150-year-old Star Beast cub, it would take a while. Who would be like this guy, exploding it with one punch? He was simply an animal. The dean next to them was still smiling and asking, "Teachers, what do you think of this guy?" The teacher in charge of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 looked at each other and could only smile awkwardly. Very strong. To be able to kill a 150-year-old Star Beast cub with his bare hands, he is indeed very strong. The dean laughed out loud. You didn't see the scene of him killing a 170-year-old Star Beast cub with one punch. The 2 teachers were petrified on the spot for the 3rd time. In their 2 classes, none of them could kill a 170-year-old Star Beast cub. This guy killed it with one punch? Is this for real? At this moment, the dean gave them another heavy blow. Oh, it's not just him. That Golden Sword, Shui Bolan, and Ice Beauty basically killed all the 170-year-old Star Beasts they encountered. The 2 instructors were numb. You look at me, I look at you. Finally, they looked at the dean at the same time. Then what about the others? The president shook his head. Only then did the 2 instructors' expressions look a little better. The headmaster continued, the others haven't encountered a 170-year-old Astral Beast cub yet. We only saw them instantly kill a 160-year-old Star Beast cub. Poof, poof, invisibly 2 sounds of blood spurting could be heard. If he could instantly kill a 170-year-old, then even if he couldn't instantly kill a 160-year-old, it shouldn't be a problem. This completely destroyed their last bit of hope. That instructor Mo, how exactly does he teach his students? The instructor of Class 6-1 said subconsciously. The dean said, I really don't know about that. But take a look at Lei Ren from Class 0. As the dean spoke, he asked the instructor beside him to bring up Lei Ren's image. Lei Renjing encountered a 160-year-old Star Beast cub. His right arm transformed into a dragon claw with lightning coiling around its tip. In the next moment he passed by the 160-year-old Star Beast cub. Rip. The 200-meter-long body of the 160-year-old Astral Beast cub was instantly torn in half. There wasn't even a trace of self-recovery. When the instructors of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 saw this, they revealed looks of admiration. Lei Ren is a genius. It's not surprising that he can kill a level 160 astral beast cub. The dean smiled. Lei Ren was also taught by instructor Mo. When the instructors of class 6-1 and class 6-2 heard this, their eyes dimmed. The dean continued, and according to my understanding, before Lei Ren came to our academy, although he was taught in our academy, but in reality he wasn't very strong. He was known as the #1 spoiled brat within 1,000 kilometers. You can imagine how weak his combat strength is. Later, when school started, he took a half-semester leave. In fact, it was instructor Mo who brought him to special training. After the special training, Lei Ren reached the point where he could fight someone 5 grades above him. Also, according to instructor Yu, this isn't Lei Ren's full strength. If Lei Ren used his full strength, he might be able to reach the level of a super-evolved dragon. When they heard the dean's words, it wasn't just the instructors of class 6-1 and class 6-2. All the higher-ups of the academy sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, a level 2 evolved dragon could defeat a level 10 evolved dragon? Other than the dean, all the instructors weren't as strong as Lei Ren? How did instructor Mo teach his students? This was simply like turning stone into gold. Moreover, to be able to bring Earth City, the last place, to such a state, was completely turning something rotten into something miraculous. This was simply too inconceivable. Actually, they didn't know that with Lei Ren's current strength, it was impossible for him to defeat a level 10 evolved dragon. That was just an exaggeration that had been passed around. Lei Ren's true strength was only able to fight someone 5 grades above him. If he could truly master the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, then he would truly be invincible under the super-evolved dragon. However, these instructors were already shocked. Dean, after instructor Jean left, we randomly found someone to replace him. I didn't expect to find a god-level instructor. The dean also sighed. I didn't expect it either. As he spoke, his consciousness probed out again. He found that Mo Sure had actually fallen asleep while leaning against the back of the chair. And his shiny saliva was flowing down. What kind of dragon was this? Originally, if it continued like this, there would be no problem for class 6-3 to take the top 20 places. But on the last day of the exam, there was still a problem. On the big screen, a student from class 5-5 who was hunting star beasts suddenly disappeared. The screen was filled with snowflakes. The tracker also failed. Their instructors hurriedly chased him to the location where he disappeared, but they couldn't find any clues. Then a student from class 5-2 also disappeared. Then class 6-1. Seeing this, the dean hurriedly ordered the instructors to order the students to withdraw immediately. However, after their orders were issued, they didn't receive any response. Then all the screens turned into snowflakes. All the students couldn't be contacted. Those instructors hurriedly searched everywhere. In the end, only 630 of the 800 students were found. There were still 170 students who were completely uncontactable. This included the 20 people from class 6-3. The atmosphere in the entire academy suddenly became tense. After the dean counted all the students with a calm face, he found that the other classes had lost contact with a few students. And class 6-3 had lost contact with the entire class. This caused everyone to be extremely surprised. Chapter 6:10. There were 170 students missing in the entire academy. But the missing students from the other classes seemed to be random. There was no pattern. 3 or 4, 4 or 5, or 7 or 8 students from each class were missing. Only the students from class 6-3 were missing. This caused all the instructors to scratch their heads in confusion. The dean hurriedly sent out dozens of aircrafts and hundreds of drones to search the area with the missing students as the center. At the same time, the dean thought of Mo Sure and hurried over to ask for Mo Sure's opinion. Mo Sure said, "It seems that a spatial dragon took them all away. Could there be dragon bandits hiding in this forest?" The dean asked. Mo Sure nodded. "Judging from the situation just now, it is indeed possible. And they dared to kidnap those students in front of so many instructors. I think these dragon bandits are not ordinary." The dean was furious. "If they dare to hurt my students, I will destroy all of them." Then the dean thought of something and asked Mo Sure, "Why were only a few students from the other classes taken away, but your entire class 6-3 class was taken away?" Mo Sure smiled. "These little brats were willing." "What? Willing?" The dean was puzzled. Ordinary students couldn't escape even if they wanted to, but the students of class 6-3 were willing to be taken away? Mo Sure replied, Yes, when they were about to kidnap 3 of the students, Kong Ming used his spatial ability to take the rest of the students and chase after them. What should we do? The dean's face was full of anxiety. Even if he was a super-evolved dragon, if something happened to so many students, he couldn't escape the blame. Immortality waved his hand. Dean, don't be impatient. Those dragon bandits took my students away. They should be the ones who should be afraid. The dean understood what Immortality meant. The students of class 6 to 3 were powerful, and those dragon bandits might not be able to defeat them. But they were still students after all and had never experienced any fighting. How could they be a match for those ruthless dragon bandits? Even so, we still have to find them as soon as possible. The dean said. Immortality smiled. Don't worry, they will be back soon. Immortality's confidence was, of course, well-founded. If the dragon bandits had not taken away everyone in class 6 to 3, Immortality might have been a little worried. However, after snatching away everyone from class 6 to 3, Immortality wasn't worried at all. The students of class 6 to 3 had fought the dragon bandits with real swords and spears. After training in the Misty Mountains, they were already familiar with the methods of the dragon bandits and how ruthless they were. And their attacks on the dragon bandits were absolutely ruthless. Especially Earth City, one person could destroy hundreds and thousands of dragon bandits. Therefore, there was nothing to worry about. However, even though Immortality said so, the dean didn't dare to do nothing. He continued to expand the search area, searching for traces of the students. However, there was no news at all. This made all the students and instructors in the academy extremely anxious. At the same time, in a place with picturesque hills and clear waters and smoke rising in spirals, the 170 students suddenly appeared at the same time. Along with them were 2 spatial element dragon bandits. As soon as these students appeared, more than 100 dragon bandits rushed out around them. These dragon bandits all looked ferocious and had all sorts of strange appearances. These students had never seen such a scene before. Some of the more timid ones fell to the ground in fright. Even the bolder ones retreated at this time. Seeing this, the 100 dragon bandits all laughed. They are all little bastards who have never seen the world. Look at that one, he is so scared that he peed himself, ha! The leader of the bandits also laughed when he saw this. A few days ago, my master told me that the blood refinement technique needs to refine the blood of a giant dragon. Just one type of blood isn't enough, we have to gather the blood of all 5 elements, and the more the better. This is great, not only do we have the 5 elements but we also have the ice, poison, and even poison attributes. The spatial element dragon bandit pointed at Kong Ming and said, Boss, that kid also has the spatial element. When I brought these students back, he brought a few of them with him. When the students present heard this, their expressions changed drastically. It seemed that these dragon bandits were not ordinary dragon bandits, but dragons of the demonic path. There was such a giant dragon in the entire 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. They felt that ordinary cultivation was too slow, so they took all kinds of shortcuts. Some of them sacrificed their own lifespan to cultivate, while others sacrificed the lives of other giant dragons to cultivate. The former was looked down upon by others and was called the demonic path. The latter was despised by 10,000 dragons. Once the entire 10,000 Dragon Star Zone knew that there was a demonic dragon, they would gang up and attack it. Legend had it that the demonic dragons were all vicious and merciless, far from what the dragon bandits could compare to. The dragon bandits only wanted to kill dragons and steal their treasures. And these demonic dragons might not kill you in one go in order to cultivate. Instead, he's raising you so that he can cultivate and suck your blood every day. This was definitely a fate worse than death. Therefore, when they heard the bandit leader's words, many students were already trembling with fear and trepidation. They had lived in an ivory tower since they were young. Even when they went out to train, they had teachers by their side to protect them. They had never faced such a situation before. However, just as these students were trembling with fear, a ray of golden sword chi was instantly activated. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In a short 3 seconds, 5 rays of sword chi pierced through the heads of 5 dragon bandits. Not only that, dozens of icicles pierced through the heads of 3 dragon bandits. This change happened so suddenly that even the dragon bandits could not react in time. The students of class 6 to 3 retaliated. Lei Ren also retaliated with them. He had also killed dragon bandits with Immortality before. Lightning energy was released and instantly electrocuted 4 or 5 dragon bandits. In just 5 seconds, more than 40 dragon bandits had already fallen to the ground. The dragon bandits were all shocked and hurriedly wanted to fight. But soon the surrounding plants wrapped around their limbs like giant pythons. At the same time, a thick layer of ice formed on all the dragon bandits' bodies. The two layers of control made it impossible for them to fight back in a short time. Whoosh 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 whoosh, in another 5 seconds, more than 40 dragon bandits had fallen to the ground. Only now did the dragon bandits completely break free from the control. However, in just 10 seconds, more than half of the dragon bandits had been killed. This made the bandit leader very angry. He had thought that today would be a great harvest, but he did not expect that the ones he collected were all life-threatening ghosts. He really could not understand why these students were different from other students. He had seen many students on other planets, and those students were all so scared in front of him that they did not even dare to fart. Why the hell are these students so aggressive the moment they come up? Chapter 6:11. F***CK kill him. The bandit leader was infuriated by the sudden change. With an angry roar, a beam of energy blasted towards Lei Ren. However, Lei Ren was paying attention to him. With a light leap he dodged the energy. Then he blasted towards the other dragon bandits. For a moment these dragon bandits were caught off guard. As for the remaining 150 students, they were all dumbfounded by what they saw. How could these students from class 6 to 3 be so valiant? They were even more valiant than the dragon bandits. Previously, some of them were not convinced of class 6 to 3. However, at this moment they were completely convinced. Especially for the two guys Golden Sword and Tuching Earth City, they are even more admirable. One of them was a sword and the other was a small dragon bandit. Moreover, not only was Golden Sword's attack sharp, but his judgment and grasp of the situation was also quite accurate. He knew that among these dragon bandits, the most difficult one to deal with was the spatial attribute dragon bandit. With him around, these students would be easily controlled by his spatial attribute. It would be difficult for them to resist. Therefore, Golden Sword's first target was the spatial attribute dragon bandit. He stabbed him in half with one sword. The other was a small dragon bandit with one punch. The most terrifying one was Earth City. Although he did not seem to have any moves or skills, he just swung his fists and went up to fight. But none of the dragon bandits could withstand one punch from him. And basically, no matter where the punch landed, a huge hole would be blasted in that area. One had to know that the bodies of giant dragons were extremely tough. Even those specially forged swords would not be able to break through their defenses if they were not imbued with energy. Now, Earth City was actually able to destroy the bodies of these dragon bandits with one punch with just his physical strength. How strong must he be? Soon, under the encouragement of the 20 students from class 6 to 3, the other 150 students also stood up to resist. Naturally, they could not be as strong as the students from class 6 to 3. However, the giant dragon's self-healing ability was extremely strong. As long as you dared to let go of your hand, you would be able to overwhelm your opponent in terms of momentum. Those dragon bandits might seem very ferocious on a daily basis. But at this moment, they did not expect that these students would not only resist, but also resist so fiercely. For a moment they panicked. Especially when they saw the students from class 6 to 3 kill the dragon bandits in one move, they panicked even more. Therefore they immediately wanted to scatter and flee. However, they were slowed down by Mu Wanqing's control skill and the Ice Beauty's control skill. He was even slowed down by Kong Ming's control skill. After a few rounds of this, none of them were able to escape. In the end, a total of 133 dragon bandits were wiped out. Looking at the scattered corpses of the dragon bandits, the students from the other classes felt disgusted. Their stomachs were churning and they all bent over to vomit. Only the students of class 6 to 3, after their previous experience, were still a little disgusted by these things, but not to the point of vomiting. Even Mu Wanqing, who was usually the most timid, did not have any intention of vomiting at this moment. When the students from the other classes saw how valiant the students from class 6 to 3 were, their admiration for class 6 to 3 increased by a few points. Moreover, they were also in awe of the teacher in charge of class 6 to 3. Before Instructor Mo came, although class 6 to 3 was also very strong, they were far from reaching this level. Now, Teacher Mo had only been here for 2 months, and class 6 to 3 was simply inhumanly strong. It was certain that even if the mentors of the academy were here, they would not be able to do better. Following that, these students rested for about 10 minutes. Then they saw a drone in the distance searching in this direction. A moment later it found these students. At the same time in the giant ship. The mentors and a few higher-ups of the academy saw the students captured by the drone through the big screen. Those students were all covered in blood, which shocked the mentors. However, they saw that the students were at least still standing. If they could stand, their lives would not be in danger. This made the mentors heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, they saw more than 100 corpses lying around these students. They were even more shocked. Then the dean hurriedly sent people to bring these students back. They asked these students about the situation. When they heard that the students of class 6 to 3 had launched a counterattack, they were all shocked by the students of class 6 to 3. Originally, it was already quite shocking that more than 100 students had defeated more than 100 dragon bandits. Now, the students of class 6 to 3 had already launched a counterattack while the students of the other classes were still in shock. In the end, half of these more than 100 dragon bandits were killed by the students of class 6 to 3. This shocked the mentors even more. They asked themselves, even if they encountered such a thing, it was very likely that they would not be able to achieve such a status. There were also some mentors who fantasized that if their students encountered such a thing and killed the enemies together, their students would be able to obtain a spot to participate in the 100-star tournament. However, even their students shook their heads. Compared to the students of class 6 to 3, they were far inferior. They had saved their lives. How could they dare to snatch their spot? Moreover, even if they snatched that spot, what could they do when the time came? With their strength, they would only be beaten up if they went up. Only the students of class 6 to 3 could shine on such a stage and spread the name of the Cloud Sea Academy. In the end, the dean decided to award the Cloud Sea Medal to these 178 students. This kind of medal was usually only given out a few spots a year, but this time, 170 medals were given out at once. At the same time, other than the Cloud Sea Medal, the students of class 6 to 3 were also given the highest hero medal in the academy. One had to know that in the academy's tens of thousands of years of history, there were not many students who could obtain such a hero medal. Basically, it was obtained by the mentors. This time, 20 medals were given out at once. This was really an eye-opener. As for the 20 spots to participate in the tournament, they were naturally taken up by the students of class 6 to 3. However, the dean decided to add a substitute spot at the last minute. And this substitute spot was given to Lei Ren, who was as brave and fierce as the students of class 6 to 3 during the battle. This decision made Yu Yanran very excited. She patted Lei Ren's shoulder and praised him. "Kid, you've grown up." Lei Ren shook his head. No, it's because you taught me well." Hearing this flattery, Yu Yanran immediately felt good. "Of course." Lei Ren shook his head again. "I'm talking about Mentor Mo." Yu Yanran's pretty face immediately darkened. Chapter 6:12. Those students killed more than 130 dragon bandits. Among them, there were more than 20 people in class 6 to 3, and they killed more than 60 dragon bandits. This increased Emo Shi's dragon slaying points by more than 60. Dragon slaying points, 1771000. Emo Shi looked at the dragon slaying points, but he was still not satisfied. If there were more of his students among these students, wouldn't he be able to get more dragon slaying points today? This gave birth to an idea. The students from other classes already knew how good his students were, and they all wanted to come to class 6 to 3. But they were limited by the school's rules, so they didn't have the chance. But wasn't the summer vacation coming soon? He could set up a summer tutoring class. As long as he tutored these students for more than 10 days, any dragon slaying points they killed in the future would be his. On the Cloud Sea planet there was no such thing as tutoring classes. Naturally, there was no rule to restrict the teachers from setting up tutoring classes. Thinking of this, Emo Shi couldn't help but feel excited. After returning to the school, the dean invited Emo Shi to his office and explained some of the plans for the 100-star tournament in detail. He asked Emo Shi to help with the planning. Emo Shi smiled. "Dean, do you think the students I've taught still need any plans? They could crush them directly with their strength. Why would they need any plans?" The dean nodded. "Of course, the students taught by Teacher Emo are all much stronger than ordinary students. But we also need to be prepared. Just in case." Emo Shi nodded. "Dean, you're right. How about this? I'll leave all the plans and records to you. I'll just be responsible for my 21 students." The dean smiled bitterly and could only nod. At this moment he could already see that Emo Shi's strength was a level higher than his. In this world where strength was respected, Emo Shi's status was higher than his. So whatever Emo Shi said was the truth. In the blink of an eye, the summer vacation had arrived. The 100-star tournament would only start 20 days after the vacation. Emo Shi released the news in the school. Teacher Emo will be setting up tutoring classes during the summer vacation and recruiting students. Each class will be 10 days and each class is limited to 100 students. The tuition fee is 1,000 dragon coins per person. Right now, Mo sure wasn't in the mood to spend 2 months to train in the mountains like he did with the 20 students of class 6 to 3. Each period was only 10 days long. In 10 days, these students would be recognized by the system as his students. In 10 days he had earned 100,000 dragon coins. Moreover, if there were more students, there would be more opportunities for talents to emerge. As a result, more people joined the army. By then, the number of people they killed on the battlefield would all be converted into their own dragon slaying points. Just thinking about it made him feel good. Someone asked why he didn't spend 2 months to focus on teaching 30 to 50 people and make them become students of class 6 to 3, who were far more outstanding than ordinary students. Of course not. Wouldn't that mean he wouldn't be able to collect so many dragon coins? Moreover, Mo sure would definitely become the enemy of the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region in the future. Wasn't grooming so many powerful students the same as grooming so many powerful enemies for himself? Mo sure had his own considerations for all of this. When Mo sure released the news, the entire academy went crazy in an instant. All the students saw how powerful the students of class 6 to 3 were. Previously they had thought of all kinds of ways to enter class 6 to 3, but the academy's rules didn't allow it, so they could only regretfully miss it. They didn't expect that the instructor of class 6 to 3 would actually want to recruit students during the summer vacation. This was simply an opportunity given to them by the heavens. Of course, they didn't expect to be as powerful as the students of class 6 to 3 in 10 days. However, they heard that as long as instructor Mo had taught students before, they would be able to make a breakthrough within a day. Just this point alone was worth 1,000 dragon coins. Thus, on the first day of the summer vacation, he had recruited 100 students within the first minute. When he recruited students, it didn't matter how powerful you were, who introduced you, or how good your talent was. All of them were recruited on a first-come first-served basis. This also made the students who didn't have connections, financial resources, or talent to be reassured. As long as they had 10,000 dragon coins, they would definitely be able to enter the tutoring classes in the future. Mo sure asked Lei Rin to compile the information of these people and arrange them according to the order of arrival. In the end, all 800 students of the academy had signed up. Since ancient times, no tutoring classes had been able to recruit students as quickly as Mo sure. He glanced at the name list and said to Lei Rin, "Remove you in class 6 to 3 from the list." Lei Rin widened his eyes. "Don't, brother Mo. You're teaching others, why don't you teach us? This isn't very good." Mo sure glared at Lei Rin. "The 21 of you have been by my side every day. I've already taught you what I should have taught you. Right now, the strength of any one of you is enough to crush the top students of the other academies. Following me is just a waste of time." Lei Rin could only helplessly shake his head. However, he wasn't worried about himself. Anyway, Mo sure lived in the same courtyard as him. If he didn't understand anything, he could ask him at any time. Very quickly, 10 days later, the time for the first semester had arrived. On the last day, Mo sure brought them to Earth space to help them break through. Of course, although they had broken through in Earth space when they returned to the real world, they still hadn't broken through. However, because they had experienced the feeling of breaking through in Earth space, when they returned to the real world, this feeling wouldn't disappear. Therefore, their breakthroughs would be much faster. In just half a day, all 100 students had broken through. This shocked everyone once again. Helping 100 giant dragons break through in one day was completely beyond the understanding of the giant dragons. After becoming an evolved giant dragon, it would take 100 years for each level to break through. This was very normal. Now, Instructor Mo had helped all these students break through in half a day. This was simply shocking. In the next 20 days, Mo sure helped another 100 students break through to the next stage. The remaining students couldn't wait any longer. However, because the 100-star tournament would be held tomorrow, they could only wait for it to end. At the same time, the news that Mo sure could help 100 students break through every 10 days spread like wildfire. In just a few days, it had spread throughout the entire Cloud Sea Star. This news had even spread to other planets. However, many people on other planets treated this as a joke. They even said that Mo sure was a swindler. Mo sure didn't care about this. At the same time, the news that the students of class 6 to 3 led the 150 students to kill more than 130 dragon bandits didn't spread. This was because the dean had specifically instructed all the instructors to keep this news a secret. If this news was leaked, the students from other planets who were participating in the tournament would be on guard. Therefore, in order to catch them off guard, none of the students could leak this news. The students were all very self-aware. After all, this was related to the honor of the entire academy. They were part of the Cloud Sea Academy, so they naturally had to do their part for the academy. Chapter 6:13. Finally, on this day the 100-star tournament began. As the teacher and teacher of the 20 students, Mo sure naturally had to go. He also took the opportunity to learn more about the nearby planets. Although he had read a lot of information before, he couldn't understand anything just by looking at the information. You had to learn from all angles. The dean, a few leaders of the academy, Yu Yenran, Lei Ren, and the teachers and students of class 6 to 3. A total of 30 people rode a small spaceship and headed to the venue of the tournament, Martial Arts Planet. After reaching the level of evolved giant dragon, every giant dragon could fly in the air. However, their flying speed was far slower than a spaceship. Therefore, when going to other planets, they would usually take a spaceship. After flying for more than an hour, they finally arrived at Martial Arts Planet. The Martial Arts Planet was an artificial planet built by hundreds of nearby planets. The planet was not big, only about the size of Earth in the past. The entire Martial Arts Planet was built from solidified meteorite lava from the depths of the starry sky. It was extremely sturdy. Basically, giant dragons below the level of evolved giant dragon could not cause any damage to Martial Arts Planet. Even if a super evolved giant dragon used its full strength, the damage it could cause to Martial Arts Planet was very limited. Moreover, after the damage, it was not as difficult to repair as other planets. The repair of Martial Arts Planet was relatively simple, as long as the damaged areas were melted and molded. The reason why the hundreds of nearby planets built Martial Arts Planet was for the super evolved giant dragons to spar with each other. The super evolved giant dragon's destructive power was too strong. No matter which planet they fought on, it would cause irreversible damage to the planet. Therefore, it was necessary to build such a martial arts planet. However, the number of super evolved giant dragons was small, so there were even fewer spars between them. Therefore, Martial Arts Planet was often idle. Later, everyone discussed and finally decided to hold the 100-star tournament once every 10 years on Martial Arts Planet. Of course, most of the time, everyone could rent Martial Arts Planet. When the teachers and students of Cloud Sea Academy arrived at Martial Arts Planet, there were already many teachers and students from other planets. When these people saw Cloud Sea Academy arrive, they all more or less showed a trace of disdain. Tisk, it's that academy that always ranks last in every tournament. If you ask me, they should just not participate in the 100-star tournament. It's a disgrace. Since ancient times, the Cloud Sea planet has never been able to advance in anything. This is understandable. The dean and the instructors naturally knew what these people were talking about. During the 100-star competition of the past, Ocean of Clouds Academy had suffered the cold gazes of the other academies. But there was nothing they could do about it. Who asked them to be so weak? In this world where strength was respected, if you were not strong enough, then don't blame others for making irresponsible remarks about you. But this time, the dean and the instructors looked at each other and sneered in their hearts. All of you will know how strong our academy is once the 100-star competition begins. It wasn't exaggerated to say that the students participating in the 100-star competition this time were the strongest in the history of the academy. At this moment, a spaceship flew over from the horizon. There were two large golden words on the ship, Golden Crow. The teachers and students of the other academies all turned their heads to look at the spaceship. Their words were filled with envy. The Golden Crow Academy from the Golden Crow planet is here. The Golden Crow Academy has won the championship 4 times in the last 500-star tournaments. Based on their current strength, they are a unique existence amongst all the other academies. I heard that the students of their academy are ridiculously strong this time. Basically, all of them are at the 8th rank or above. There are even 2 at the 10th rank. Yeah, they even poached an instructor from another planet. That instructor's teaching standard is rather high. With such an instructor guiding such students, it would be difficult for them to not win the championship. Alas, looks like we'll be accompanying them again. It didn't take long for the instructors and students of the Golden Crow Academy to disembark from the spaceship. Even though their expressions didn't change, it was obvious from their eyes that they were very proud. They had an innate sense of superiority when facing students from other planets. Their dean glanced at the other deans, and then his gaze descended onto the dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy. He walked over with large strides. The instructor who led the group behind him was the one who'd been poached from Ocean of Clouds Academy, Jean Pontu. The Dean of Golden Crow Academy arrived before the Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy and patted him on the shoulder. "Ha! Old fellow, you're still alive?" The Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy roared with laughter as well. "You're still alive, so how could I dare to die first?" The Dean of Golden Crow Academy spoke sarcastically. "Don't place last in this competition. Even my heart aches for you." They were old friends who'd known each other for over 10,000 years. They often spoke sarcastically to each other. However, when it came to the competition, it was the Dean of Golden Crow Academy who spoke more sarcastically to the Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy. The Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy had no choice but to grit his teeth and swallow it. However, he was filled with confidence this time because he had the students of Class 6-3 with him. However, he didn't show it on the surface. He wanted to give the Dean of Golden Crow Academy a huge surprise in the end. He even couldn't wait to see the Dean of Golden Crow Academy's surprise and disbelief. The Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy couldn't help but feel delighted when he thought about how the other deans would react. At this moment, Jean Ponta led 20 students over to the students of Class 6-3. Glancing at the 20 students he had once taught, he chuckled. "All of you are doing well." The students of Class 6-3 were angry. People always wanted to climb higher. The Golden Crow Academy gave them a lot of money, so it was normal for them to go there. However, they had to at least finish teaching in this academy. At the very least, they had to inform the academy in advance so that they could be prepared and find other substitute instructors. However, they didn't do anything before, and they just left after talking to the dean. They left Class 6-3 behind. That was simply too unkind of him. The class monitor, Shui Bolin, snorted. "Very good." Jean Ponta laughed. "I'm very surprised that all 20 of you can participate in this competition. It seems that you've been working hard after I left." Shui Bolin snorted again. "Do you think we can't live without you?" Behind Jean Ponta, the 20 students of Golden Crow Academy were all unhappy when they heard that. "It's you who are too weak. Instructor Jean is not willing to teach you. The planet at the bottom, the academy at the bottom, and the students at the bottom. Who the hell is willing to teach you?" After that, they turned around and left. The students of Class 6-3 all glared at them angrily. Mosher looked at the backs of those students and Jean Ponta and said to the students of Class 6-3, "If you meet them, beat them to death." Chapter 6:14. There were more than 100 planets, more than 100 academies, and each academy had 20 students. In total, there were more than 2,000 students. The organizing committee of this tournament started with the lot drawing ceremony. This tournament used an elimination system. No matter who the student was, as long as they lost a match, they would be eliminated. This system was quite cruel to the students, but they had no choice. Living in this 10,000 Dragon Star region, they had to face such cruel rules. This was the so-called natural selection and survival of the fittest. Class 6-3 students finished their lot drawing. The dean and a group of academy leaders led Class 63 students into the inner part of the planet. The inner part of the planet was hollow, and there were all kinds of living and entertainment facilities. Basically, when the instructors and students of each academy entered the planet, they started to study intensely and explained all kinds of martial arts knowledge to the students. Only Yunhai Academy's instructors were very relaxed when they entered the inner part of the planet. After entering the inner part of the planet, Mosher directly told the students that he was tired and wanted to sleep. They were free to do whatever they wanted. Then he went into his room. He didn't care about the students anymore. The students were happy to be free. They strolled around the streets here and played in the entertainment places there. They had a lot of fun. On the other hand, the students of the other academies were locked in their rooms to train alone. They didn't go out for the whole day. When the masters of the other academies saw that the students of Yunhai Academy didn't do their jobs, they all laughed in their hearts. Yunhai Academy really didn't improve. Who said they didn't? They were last place every year and they still didn't learn their lesson this year. Especially Jean Ponta, when he saw how relaxed the students of Class 63 were, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. The good seedlings I brought were all ruined by that instructor Mo. When the dean of Jianghu Academy saw this, he also shook his head. That old guy's academic skills were getting worse and worse. He brought a bunch of rubbish. The students of Yunhai Academy naturally knew how the others thought of them, but they didn't show it on their faces, but they were laughing coldly in their hearts. Laugh, laugh, laugh all you want. When tomorrow's 100-star tournament starts, it will be too late for you to cry. If there were words, it would be long. If there were no words, it would be short. The night quickly passed. At 9 o'clock in the morning on the second day, all the instructors and students came to the surface of the planet again. On the surface of the martial duel planet, there were a total of 100 huge circular battle arenas. Each arena had a radius of 10 kilometers. Around the Colosseum, there were spectator seats that could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Although the spectator stands were far from the center of the arena, the dragons were able to see everything clearly with their eyesight. However, all the students were divided into 100 arenas, so it was impossible for the audience to watch all 100 arenas. Therefore, there were over 100 giant screens floating in the air above the arena. Through these giant screens, the audience could easily see the situation in each arena. None of the activities in the 10,000 Dragon Star area had the lengthy speeches of the leaders on Earth. Therefore, under the referee's command, the battles of the 200 students in the 100 arenas began at the same time. There were 3 students from class 6 to 3 in the first round. The 3 of them basically finished the battle with a single move. However, there were too many students on the field, so no one paid any attention to them. Everyone's attention was on the contestants from the Golden Crow Academy and the other seeded academies. Finally, after the first round, the 3 students from the Golden Crow Academy had won. Almost everyone was busy congratulating the Golden Crow Academy, so they ignored the fact that the 3 students from the Cloud Ocean Academy had won more easily than the Golden Crow Academy. On the contrary, Instructor Jean from the Golden Crow Academy was surprised to see that the 3 students from class 6 to 3 had all advanced. "Yo, I didn't expect you guys to advance too. Not bad." He didn't hide the ridicule on his face as he spoke to Immortality. Immortality couldn't be bothered with such a person and didn't even bother to talk to him. However, this didn't make Instructor Jean leave. Instead, it made him even angrier. "I'm a real gold medal instructor, and you're just a substitute instructor. How dare you ignore me? When your students encounter the Golden Crow Academy, it'll be too late for you to cry." In the next few rounds, the students from the Golden Crow Academy and the Cloud Ocean Academy all advanced. As the total number of people had reached more than 1,000, no one paid attention to the Cloud Ocean Academy. Everyone was busy celebrating the advancement of the Golden Crow Academy students. "Instructor Jean, you're really good. All your students advanced. The Golden Crow Academy is worthy of being a gold medal academy. All of them advanced in the first round. How enviable. Looks like the champion this year will be the Golden Crow Academy again." The first round ended in the afternoon, and the second round would be held the next day. Because the strengths of the students that were able to enter the second round were even stronger, the instructors of the various academies were concentrating on guiding their students, and they instilled all sorts of theoretical and practical knowledge into their students. On the other hand, the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy were still wandering about freely on the streets and scenic spots. Many instructors and students couldn't stand it anymore. Sure enough, they're here on a public holiday. I wonder why such an academy and such instructors still exist. If they were on our planet, they wouldn't even live for half a year. However, only those students who were defeated by the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy today realized how powerful the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy were. Their instructors also realized how powerful the Cloud Ocean Academy was. Basically, as soon as they met, they cupped their fists and bowed, and in the next second, their students were directly knocked down to the ground. They had never seen such powerful students before. They were simply heaven-defying existences. Did they even suspect that these people were students? Could it be that they were teachers of the academy in disguise? However, when they mentioned this to the instructors of the other academies, they were rolled their eyes at. They said that it was an excuse for their elimination. The second round continued on the second day. The students of the Cloud Ocean Academy still won. Of course, no one paid attention to them because all the attention was on the Golden Crow Academy and the other seeded academies. The Cloud Ocean Academy was still the target of ridicule. But this time there were much fewer people who ridiculed them. Because many who ridiculed them before were defeated by them. However, this wasn't the goal of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Their goal was to defeat the Golden Crow Academy and Instructor Jin's students. Because there were only 500 students left, the 20 of them would very likely encounter the students of the Golden Crow Academy tomorrow. At that time they would show everyone how powerful the Cloud Ocean Academy was. Chapter 6:15. The next morning, all 2,000+ students and instructors came to the surface of the 5 Stars Battle Arena. There were over 1,000 students participating in today's competition, and the Golden Crow Academy from planet Golden Crow was still the most favored. Their strength was indeed far superior to the students from other academies. The first 3 students defeated their opponents within 5 seconds. This was an eye-opener for all the instructors and students present. That Jin Ming from the Golden Crow Academy is so powerful. He defeated his opponent in 5 seconds. That Tu Hao is also very strong. His pair of hammers are swinging vigorously, and his defensive skills are dazzling. And that Kong Se is actually a rare spatial attribute expert. His spatial skills are impossible to guard against. The other academies can only pray that they won't be beaten to death if they encounter these students from the Golden Crow Academy. At this moment, another student from the Golden Crow Academy entered the arena. This student was Jin Ming's twin, and his name was Jin Xiang. He used a pair of swords and killed his opponent in 1 hit in the last round. His opponent just happened to be Jin Jian from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. The competition was about to begin, and the contestants from both sides entered the arena. Everyone was still optimistic about the students from the Golden Crow Academy. This Jin Xiang and Jin Ming are brothers, right? They look so similar. That goes without saying. They're obviously twins. Since Jin Ming is so strong, Jin Xiang shouldn't be too bad. Of course. I heard that they have the same talent since they were young, and their speed of advancement is the same. Their strength is about the same. Moreover, look at his opponent, he is from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. Why don't you take a look at what the Ocean of Clouds Academy has been doing these past 2 days? Others are revising and cultivating while they are strolling on the streets. It would be unreasonable if they still want to get a good ranking. Get the hell down from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. Don't go up and embarrass yourselves. Don't you see how strong the Golden Crow Academy is? You're just looking for a beating. When Jin Xiang heard these discussions, he didn't pay any attention to them. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Jin Jian naturally heard these discussions and curses, but he didn't care. His face didn't have any expression. What he was thinking in his heart would be known by the 3 of them later. At the same time, all the teachers and students from the Ocean of Clouds Academy had the same thought. They couldn't wait to see the surprised and puzzled expressions on these people's faces. The competition begins. Following the referee's order. Clang. The sound of a sword being unsheathed could be heard. At the same time, a golden sword light illuminated the entire area. The next moment, a sword light pierced through Jin Xiang's heart. At the same time, Jin Xiang fell down powerlessly. The golden sword light disappeared solemnly. At the same time, Jin Jian stood with his hands behind his back. His face was still expressionless. His gaze was still as sharp as a sword. At this moment, silence reigned. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Everyone's eyes and mouths were wide open as they stared in disbelief at the situation on the Colosseum. They didn't even see what happened. At the same time, the big screen in the arena was replaying everything that had just happened. When the referee announced the start of the fight, the crowd was stunned. Jin Jian's right hand suddenly condensed a sword light and instantly pierced through Jin Xiang's heart. The speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness of the attack caused him to be unable to react at all. Everyone who saw this scene widened their eyes and mouths as they stared at the big screen in disbelief. Once again, the entire place fell into dead silence. It wasn't until a moment later that someone reacted. How is this possible? He actually killed Jin Xiang in an instant. He's just a loser from the Cloud Sea Academy. How could he kill a genius from the Golden Crow Academy in an instant? Especially the Dean of the Golden Crow Academy. At this moment, the teacup in his hand was shaking slightly. Instructor Jin Pantu from the Golden Crow Academy was staring at Jin Xiang in disbelief. He knew these students the best. Although Jin Xiang and Jin Ming were twins and people thought their strength was about the same, in fact, Jin Xiang's talent was slightly higher than Jin Ming's. In particular, Jin Xiang's swordsmanship was much higher than Jin Ming's. Therefore, his strength was higher than Jin Ming's. At the same time, because he had taught Jin Jian for more than 30 years, he was very clear about Jin Jian's strength. Jin Jian's level was 3 levels lower than Jin Xiang's, and his strength was much lower than Jin Xiang's. In his opinion, although Jin Xiang couldn't kill Jin Jian in an instant, he could at least defeat Jin Jian in 3 moves. However, the result was exactly the opposite. Jin Xiang was killed by Jin Jian in an instant. He couldn't accept it at all. He had only left for more than half a semester. How could Jin Jian's strength change so drastically? However, this was the truth. He couldn't accept it. He could only send other students to carry the seriously injured Jin Xiang down. Then he checked Jin Xiang's injuries. The sword light pierced right through Jin Xiang's heart. It was fast, accurate, and ruthless. It was completely different from the style he used to teach. Obviously after he left there was an expert who taught Jin Jian. He turned his gaze and looked at the rest area of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Was it the dean? As a super-evolved dragon, the dean was most likely to be the one. However, he had never seen the dean use a sword. Was it another instructor? It didn't look like it. None of the other instructors had such sharp swordsmanship. Was it that stranger? He had never seen him before he left the academy. However, this guy looked sloppy. When the students were playing outside, he didn't come out to discipline them. When the students were suffering from sinus infections, he also acted as if it had nothing to do with him. He sat there as if he was enjoying the scenery. How could he have such sharp swordsmanship? However, it was unlikely for anyone except him. He couldn't figure it out. He decided to go back and investigate after today's competition. The competition continued. After a while, the Earth Element Dragon of the Golden Crow Academy was fighting against the Earth Element Dragon of the Cloud Ocean Academy. The Earth Element Dragon of the Golden Crow Academy was called Tu Dashin. In the previous rounds he had killed his opponents in an instant. Although he wasn't as strong as Tu Hao in the eyes of the other academies, Tu Dashin was also a rare genius. In their eyes, Tu Dashin of the Cloud Ocean Academy was just looking for a beating. When Tu Dashin got on the stage, Jean Ponta said, "Killing him in an instant is too easy. Go up there and torture him to death." Tu Dashin nodded, "Don't worry, instructor." Soon both sides got on the stage. The audience cheered and cheered once again. Of course, their cheers were not for the Cloud Ocean Academy, but for the Golden Crow Academy. Chapter 616. In everyone's eyes, Golden Crow Academy students were seeded contestants. Although Jin Xiang was defeated, they still had 19 seeded contestants. So when Tu Dashin went on stage, almost all the students cheered excitedly. Because they had seen Tu Dashin send his opponent flying with one punch. That was definitely a visual impact. "Dashin, Dashin, your power is boundless. Dashin, Dashin, I love you, I want to have a baby with you. Dashin, kill him." Golden Crow Academy student, is there a need to say? He can easily kill the guy on the other side. Tu Dashin leaped over a kilometer and landed in the middle of the arena. Tu Ching had been waiting there for a long time. Tu Dashin looked at Tu Ching as if he was looking at a hoodlum. He said in disdain, "Your academy student just heavily injured my classmate." Tu Ching chuckled and scratched the back of his head. "Sorry, I'll apologize to your classmate on his behalf." Tu Dashin saw this guy admitting defeat the moment they met and felt even more disdain for him. "Hehe, if apologizing is useful, why do you need me to come up?" Tu Ching was also puzzled and scratched the back of his head again. "Yeah, why did you come up?" Tu Dashin was speechless for a moment. He wondered if this guy had a screw loose in his head. "Why do you think I came up?" "I don't know." "Beat you up." Saying that, Tu Dashin leaped out. Originally, the two of them were 50 meters apart. But with Tu Dashin's leap, the distance between the two of them instantly shrunk to 1 meter. At the same time, his right hand clenched into a fist and with the momentum of charging forward, he instantly punched out. It fiercely blasted towards Tu Ching. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. He wanted to kill this guy in one hit. They had seen Tu Dashin's punches before. Although the power was extraordinary, it was not as powerful as before. After Tu Ching leaped out, there were 2 deep footprints left on the ground where he was previously standing. Tu Ching had used his full strength right from the start. Boom, there was a loud sound. A shockwave spread out in all directions. Fortunately, there were energy shields around the arena. These energy shields were specially arranged by the tournament's organizing committee. They had invited over 100 rank 10 evolved dragons to inject their energy into them. No matter how strong these students were, as long as they had not reached the level of a super-evolved giant dragon, it was impossible for them to break through the light barrier. However, at that moment, under the impact of the shockwave, a crack actually appeared on the light barrier. Although this crack was extremely small, it still shocked all the teachers and students present. Cracks have appeared on the defensive barrier. Just the shockwave alone was enough to crack the defensive light barrier. How powerful was that attack? That fellow from Ocean of Clouds Academy was probably blasted into bits, right? He won't die. After all, death is allowed in the grand competition. But it will definitely be a serious injury. I understand now. Jin Jian from Ocean of Clouds Academy heavily injured Jin Xiang from Golden Crow Academy, so Tu Dashin used his full strength as soon as the battle began. He's taking revenge for Jin Xiang. At this point, everyone finally understood. No wonder Jin Xiang used his full strength from the beginning. Then, everyone looked towards the center of the arena. In the middle of the arena stood a man. He was still in a punching posture. Contrary to everyone's expectations, the person standing was not Tu Dashan. It was Tu Cheng from Ocean of Clouds Academy. On the opposite side of Tu Cheng, at the edge of the arena 5 kilometers away, there was a figure stuck on the energy light barrier. At that moment, half of the figure's body had already disappeared. The remaining half of his body was stuck in the energy barrier, blood spurting out from his mouth. His back had already smashed a hole in the energy light barrier. His entire back and buttocks were stuck on the energy light barrier, exposing the outside of the light barrier. At that moment, everyone was extremely shocked when they saw this scene. This person was none other than Tu Dashan. This is Tu Dashan from Golden Crow Academy? Oh my god, what's going on? What the hell happened? Everyone looked at the miserable earth mountain inconceivably, and looked at the field that seemed to have done nothing, a harmless Tuching Earth city. Then they looked at the big screen in the air. On the big screen, Tu Dashan was charging towards Tu Cheng, covering 50 meters in one step. Tu Cheng did not make any shocking movements. He simply stretched out his right fist and met Tu Dashan's fist. Boom, the two of them punched each other. Then Tu Dashan was instantly sent flying backwards. Even if it was a slow-motion replay, but even in the slow motion his flying speed was still extremely fast. From this, it could be seen how fast he was sent flying. Seeing the slow-motion replay, everyone's eyes looked at the Tu Cheng in the center of the arena. Tu Dashan's strength was at the top of the 2,000 students. But this guy's punch actually reduced Tu Dashan to such a state. Just how strong was he? Even most of the instructors couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They knew that they could not take Tu Cheng's punch head-on. How did this guy train? It was said that during the previous test he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. At that time, all the mentors and students were laughing at him in Ocean of Clouds Academy. Is there no one else in Ocean of Clouds Academy? They actually sent a rank 1 evolved dragon to participate in the tournament. Now, everyone finally knew how terrifying this rank 1 evolved dragon's strength was. In the previous match, after Jin Jian had shown such a powerful strength, many people regarded Jin Jian as their biggest opponent. Especially Golden Crow Academy, they planned to focus on studying Jin Jian. But now they realized that Tu Cheng was even more terrifying than Jin Jian. Looks like they had to focus on studying this guy. However, this was just the beginning. Next, Shueibua, Kongming, and even Hickey Wanqing all displayed powerful strength. And coincidentally, their opponents were all from Golden Crow Academy. In the end, they all defeated Golden Crow Academy students in one move. Finally, in today's battle, 12 students from Ocean of Clouds Academy faced Golden Crow Academy students. All of them defeated their opponents in one move. More than half of Golden Crow Academy students were eliminated. At this point, all the students and mentors were shocked. They looked down on Ocean of Clouds Academy the most, but they did not expect it to be so terrifying. As long as they encountered a seeded contestant, they would basically crush the seeded contestant to the ground. How could they be so strong? Chapter 617. In this round, 12 people from the Golden Crow Academy had fallen. All of them had fallen at the hands of the students from the Cloud Sea Academy. Moreover, all of them had been killed in one move. Even the weakest rank 1 evolved dragon, Tu Cheng, had been able to kill Tu Dashan in one move. Moreover, his battle was the most shocking. Only now did the instructors and students of the academy come to a sudden realization. So the students of the Cloud Sea Academy were actually so strong. They couldn't help but look at the students of the Cloud Sea Academy with a bit of reverence. This was a world where the strong were respected. The strength displayed by the Cloud Sea Academy made all the instructors and students look at them in a new light. As for the instructors and students of the Golden Crow Academy, besides being shocked, they felt slightly embarrassed. The Dean of the Golden Crow Academy looked at the Dean of the Cloud Sea Academy from afar as if he was looking at a stranger. He had known this old fellow for so many years. This old fellow was indeed very strong, but in terms of learning he was far inferior. So much so that the Cloud Sea Academy was basically the last few in every 100-star tournament. He didn't expect it to soar so high this time. This was definitely not the ability of that old fellow. Thinking of this, the Dean of the Golden Crow Academy turned to look at the instructors of the Cloud Sea Academy. He and the Dean of the Cloud Sea Academy were old friends, so he often went to the Cloud Sea Academy. He also knew these instructors. Based on his understanding of these instructors, none of them had such ability. At this moment, his gaze swept over to Immortality, who was sitting in his seat and looking around casually. Could it be him? From this fellow's temperament and other aspects, it didn't seem like it. But besides him there was no one else. Looks like I have to get to know this fellow as soon as I go back today. At this moment, Jean Ponta felt as if he had eaten 12 piles of shit. Furthermore, they were fed by the students that he had taught in the past. Especially Tuching Earth City. In his eyes, Tuching was a complete piece of trash. In the past he had used all kinds of methods, but he couldn't make Tuching improve even a little. Moreover, Tuching couldn't improve, so he gave up on himself. He became the last in the entire class and even the entire academy. In the 30 years he has been leading these students, Tuching Earth City has never had any eye-catching performance. Unexpectedly, in just over 2 months, the strength of Tuching Earth City has changed so dramatically. What the hell was going on? After the battles came to an end, all those deans and instructors who were ridiculing and disdainful towards Ocean of Clouds Academy had come over to greet the deans and instructors of the academy. Obviously he was trying to make friends. The dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy naturally felt amused as he gazed at their ugly faces. Weren't they all quite capable in the past? Why are they all trying to curry favor with me now? However, he didn't dislike it. This was because it was the natural behavior of dragons to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Moreover, since these fellows had come to curry favor with him, it would make things easier for him in the future. For example, if the equipment in Ocean of Clouds Academy wasn't complete, then he could allow his students to visit the other academies and even borrow their equipment. However, Immortality didn't care who they were and rejected them all. He completely ignored them. After they returned to the academy that night, the instructors of the various academies started to study Ocean of Clouds Academy. He studied the instructors and students of Ocean of Clouds Academy. It was even to the extent that some academies even exchanged their experiences. In the end, all of them came to a consensus that the reason Ocean of Clouds Academy had suddenly become so strong was entirely because of Instructor Mo. However, they knew very little about Instructor Mo's background and identity. It was even to the extent that they utilized a considerable amount of their connections to investigate Immortality's identity. However, they were unable to find anything in the end. According to Immortality's identity, they were only able to find information about Immortality after he arrived at Ocean of Clouds Academy. They were unable to find out what he did and where he'd been before he arrived at Ocean of Clouds Academy. But the more it was like this, the more mysterious Immortality was to them. Moreover, the more mysterious a person was, the stronger that person was. If there's an expert in Ocean of Clouds Academy, then it can only be Instructor Mo. Did all of you notice the dean's attitude towards him today? It didn't seem like the dean was speaking to an instructor at all, and it seemed like the dean was speaking to a senior instead. Yes, I noticed as well. Instructor Mo's identity is so mysterious, so he's definitely a great figure. So, we have to be careful before him in the future. Don't offend him before we figure out his identity. You make it sound like we can offend him once we figure out his identity. As soon as these words were spoken, all the other instructors could only shake their heads and laugh bitterly. To be honest, even if they figured out Instructor Mo's identity, it was very likely that his background would be able to shock them to death. So, it seemed like it was best not to figure it out. During the next 3 days, the final rounds of the competition were carried out. The remaining 8 students from Golden Crow Academy were practically instantly annihilated when facing the other academies. However, they were instantly annihilated when facing Ocean of Clouds Academy. In the end, the remaining 8 students from Golden Crow Academy were eliminated as well. Even the strongest amongst them, Jin Ming, was actually instantly annihilated when facing Mu Wanqing, who seemed to be the weakest amongst the students from Ocean of Clouds Academy. This allowed everyone present here to experience how terrifying the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy were. All of them couldn't help but look at Immortality once more. Exactly how formidable is this Instructor Mo to be able to teach such a group of students? In the end, when the competition came to an end, 12 of the top 20 were students from Ocean of Clouds Academy. As for why the remaining 8 hadn't been able to enter the top 20, it was because the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy had encountered each other before they even entered the top 20. For example, Mu Wanqing was no match for Jin Jian during the competition to determine the top 16, so she could only be eliminated. But even then, not a single student dared to look down on Mu Wanqing. All of them unanimously felt that if it wasn't an elimination system but a point system, then it wouldn't be a problem for all the students from Ocean of Clouds Academy to occupy the top 20. Of course, There were some students from Ocean of Clouds Academy who felt rather disappointed. It was Lei Ren. He'd finally been able to follow them here, yet he could only be a spectator in the end. Emosher couldn't help but roar with laughter when he saw Lei Ren's aggrieved expression. He consoled. "Don't worry, you'll have a chance to participate in the next competition once you graduate." Lei Ren puckered his lips. "What if you graduate and lead a new batch of students? At that time, it'll be another 20 students from your class." Emosher waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about that. It's troublesome enough for me to lead these 20+ students. I won't lead any more after I'm done with them." Emosher had already made up his mind. After he returned to Ocean of Clouds Academy, he would run his own tutoring class properly. He would spread the name of his tutoring class. At that time it would be held every 10 days. It would save him a lot of trouble and he would be able to collect more money. Moreover, he would be able to make the system acknowledge these students as his students. 3 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 6:18. The Cloud Ocean Academy used their overwhelming advantage to become the champion of the 100-star competition. The 20 students of the Cloud Ocean Academy were deeply engraved in the minds of the over 2,000 teachers and students. Their performance, their domineering temperament, and their ruthlessness caused all the teachers and students to be deeply impressed. As for their teacher Emosher, he was deeply engraved in everyone's mind. What kind of teacher was able to teach such students? How terrifying was the teacher's strength to be able to teach such students? On the last day of the competition, all the teachers and students gathered for a meal. A large gathering of over 2,000 people could be said to be a magnificent sight. During the meal, many teachers came to toast the Dean of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Of course, there were also many teachers who came to toast Emosher. I only toasted these people, but I didn't refuse any of them. These people all praised him for his great alcohol tolerance, but they were all silently wondering where this fellow came from and how strong he was. These people thought that they had become friends with Emosher after drinking with him, but in reality, Emosher was just drinking. As for making friends with them, they could go fuck themselves. He didn't want to make friends with so many people now. He only wanted to nurture his students. When the time came, his students would spread all over the world. Would he still need to care about the faces of others? No one from the other academies left first. They all sent the teachers and students of the Cloud Ocean Academy to their flying ships and watched them leave before leaving silently. After the conference ended, a name began to spread on more than 100 nearby planets. This name naturally belonged to Emosher, Teacher Emo. At the beginning, the students of the various academies were talking about how amazing this Teacher Emo was, and how valiant the students he taught were. Because these academies were the strongest academies on each planet, the legends of these students quickly spread across the entire planet. Thus, Emosher's name spread throughout the nearby 100+ planets in an extremely short period of time. Of course, this was all in the future. When the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy returned to the Cloud Ocean, they received a warm welcome from the entire planet. After all, this was the greatest honor that the Cloud Ocean Academy had received in the past 100 years. The teachers and students of the Cloud Ocean Academy had brought honor to the entire planet. The entire Cloud Sea Star held a grand welcoming banquet for the Academy. At the welcoming banquet, Emosher's status was also very high. For a time, Emosher was in the limelight on Cloud Sea Planet. During the banquet, Emosher made an important announcement. Instructors, students, and officials taking advantage of this banquet, I would like to announce an important decision. Emosher raised his glass and said. Hearing Emosher's words, all the instructors, students, and officials turned to look at him. Well, in order to cultivate more talents for Yunhai, I've decided to open a summer cram school. The cram school will recruit students from all over Yunhai. Hearing Emosher's words, the students present immediately became excited. After all, only students from Cloud Sea Academy had attended Emosher's cram school. Today, those who had arrived at the venue were the genius students of the various academies. When they heard that Emosher had led so many students to achieve such good results, they wanted to acknowledge Emosher as their teacher. However, the academy had its own rules, and it wasn't something you could do as you pleased. They were worried about how to get Emosher's guidance. They didn't expect Emosher to announce that he was opening a cram school. How could they not be overjoyed? The officials and instructors present were also surprised. Although there hadn't been a cram school in their world before, everyone knew that Emosher had opened one before. In their opinion, Emosher was a very quiet person who stood aloof from worldly affairs. There were many things that Immortality found troublesome. Why would he announce that he was recruiting students from all over Yunhai? Immortality continued, the cram school I'm opening doesn't have any requirements for talent. No matter how high or low your talent is, even if you're trash, as long as you attend my cram school, I guarantee that you'll be able to advance by one level within 10 days. If your level is low, you can even advance by 2 or 3 levels. As soon as Immortality said this, it immediately caused a wave of exclamations. Immortality's cram school didn't have any requirements for talent. This made everyone exclaim in disbelief. After all, almost every academy had a requirement for talent when they recruited students. Actually, this was understandable. If you didn't have any talent, it would be a waste to spend so much effort, manpower, and money on you. Now, Immortality was recruiting students without any requirements for talent. Moreover, he guaranteed that every student would advance by at least one level within 10 days. How could this not surprise everyone? If an ordinary person said this, they would probably be beaten half to death on the spot. However, it was Instructor Mo from Yunhai Academy who said this. After all, Instructor Mo had just led so many students and won the championship in the 100-star tournament in an absolutely crushing manner. Moreover, Instructor Mo's ability to advance by one level within 10 days was also confirmed by the Yunhai Academy. Even if they didn't believe in others, how could they not believe in Yunhai Academy? In the end, Immortality said, I only have one principle when I recruit students. Everyone hurriedly listened attentively. As long as you have money, as long as you have 1,000 dragon coins, I guarantee that every student will advance by one level within 10 days. When everyone heard this, they were all extremely excited. Especially the students. 1,000 dragon coins was indeed very expensive for ordinary people. However, these 1,000 dragon coins were nothing compared to the cost of leveling up once. After all, many people needed over 100 years to advance by one level. Could it be that you couldn't even earn 1,000 dragon coins in 100 years? Thus, many students immediately came to Immortality to ask about all kinds of problems. The scene instantly became chaotic. The officials felt quite embarrassed. According to the customs of Yunhai Planet, no one would set up a cram school like this. In their understanding, this was something they were accustomed to. Such a cram school didn't have any qualifications, and the quality of the teaching couldn't be guaranteed. Thus, such a cram school couldn't make any money at all. If a teacher really set up a cram school like this, they would be looked down upon by others. These officials all wanted to dissuade Immortality, but Immortality didn't break any laws. In fact, Yunhai Planet didn't have such laws at all. Thus, these officials could only feel embarrassed. The dean of Yunhai Academy and a few people who wanted to curry favor with Immortality all wanted to remind Immortality that it wasn't good to leave the officials to the side like this. If you don't go through the officials and apply for any documents and things like that, do you still have any respect for the officials? However, Immortality didn't care about all this nonsense. Even if I do it, what can you do to me? With his results and his current limelight, no one would dare to do anything to him. Chapter 619. On the second day after the banquet, Immortality's summer cram school started. When he signed up in the morning, it was even more crowded than the last cram school. He asked the students in his class to compile a list of names. In the end, more than 3,000 people signed up in the morning. Of these 3,000 people, 100 people formed a batch. There were 30 batches in total. In other words, the number of people who signed up in one day was enough to fill a whole year. No cram school on earth could be so popular. After the day of registration, Immortality stopped signing up. This made the students who didn't sign up regret it. That afternoon, 5 students that Immortality helped broke through. One of the students, who was only an ordinary giant dragon, advanced 3 ranks in 5 minutes. This shocked all the students. They were all enthusiastic about learning. Of course, with so many students, Immortality didn't have time to teach them. Instead, he assigned these people to his 21 students. Each of them was in charge of 5 people. Those theoretical knowledge and so on were all taught by these students. Only at the last stage of advancement would Immortality personally guide them. 10 days later, the first 100 people had graduated. Every one of them had advanced by at least 1 rank. As the saying goes, reputation is the best advertisement. After these people graduated and each of them advanced by a level, the news spread. They told their friends and relatives about their advancement. Some people even wrote all kinds of articles and videos on the internet to promote Immortality's cram school. These kinds of online articles and videos quickly spread. Of course, many people thought that these were fake news. Some people even directly called for the government to ban this person and remove these fake news. But soon the government came out to speak. Recently, someone spread rumors that Mentor Mo Shi's cram school is fake news. In this regard, we solemnly declare that Mentor Mo's cram school is not fake news. His cram school was spread by word of mouth among the students. Moreover, it is true that you can advance in 10 days. No matter how old you are or how high your aptitude is, you will definitely advance in 10 days. At the same time, we will maintain the right to pursue those who maliciously slander Mentor Mo Shi. Once this statement was released, it was equivalent to official confirmation. Those who had said that Mo Shi's cram school was false were not only slapped in the face but also disappeared without a trace. As a result, Mo Shi's summer cram school became even more popular. There were hundreds of thousands of people asking about it on the internet and calling to inquire about it. Mo Shi had no choice but to turn off the phone. For the rest of the summer vacation, Mo Shi's cram school continued. Mo Shi had recruited more than 600 students in just 60 days of the summer vacation. These students had basically all learned his various 9 dragon transformations. Of course, Mo Shi did not teach them all the 9 dragon transformations. After all, their aptitudes varied. It was impossible for everyone to learn everything in 10 days. Most people only learned the first transformation. Only an extremely small number of people with aptitude and intelligence managed to learn the second transformation. Mo Shi also planned to keep those heavenly geniuses by his side and teach them the various third dragon transformation. These few students who were able to stay by Mo Shi's side all cried out in relief. But the 21 students of the academy were even luckier. They were very glad that Mo Shi could come to the academy. Otherwise, with their aptitudes, it would be impossible for them to stay by Mo Shi's side. Moreover, through these 2 months of teaching, they could also see that Mo Shi was serious about teaching them at that time. Not only did he teach them the various 9 dragon transformations and let them level up, but he also brought them to gain experience and even took them to suppress bandits. This allowed their progress to far surpass these ordinary students. But now, these students were basically just leveling up and teaching them the various 9 dragon transformations. He did not care about anything else. As a result, these students' greatest gain was only leveling up. As for their combat strength compared to the 21 of them, the difference was like heaven and earth. Of course, they only knew this in their hearts and would not say it out loud. In their opinion, it was already very good for these students to be able to level up. You've only paid 1,000 dragon coins, allowing you to advance by 1 stage and learn such a profound cultivation technique and skill. What else do you want? There were still many other students who wanted to squeeze their heads in, but Mo Shi didn't want them. After school started, Mo Shi only went to the academy in the morning and continued with his tutoring classes in the afternoon. He had already taught these students everything he could, so there was no point in staying in the academy. And these students came to help Mo Shi every afternoon. To them, being able to stay by Mo Shi's side was already a great fortune. Strictly speaking, Mo Shi's current actions were against the rules, but the academy turned a blind eye to Mo Shi's actions. Such an outstanding teacher naturally had to have some special privileges. If you don't give him some privileges, why should he stay in this lousy academy? The Cloud Sea Academy was only one of the most remote academies in the entire star field. With such great ability, he could go to the best academy in the entire star field, get the best treatment and make friends with the best talents. Time gradually flew, and in the blink of an eye, a year had already passed. In addition to the original 21 people, Mo Shi took in another 79 students, making a total of 100 people. He kept these 100 people by his side and trained them. Gradually, the strength of these students reached the level of the original 21 people. With such a force, no matter which academy they went to, they would definitely be the target that those academies would fight over. Now they were all gathered under Mo Shi's command. Originally, Mo Shi thought that the days would pass by in such an ordinary way. Once the number of people under his command reached a certain level, he would go to other planets. But on this day there was chaos on Cloud Sea Planet. The Cloud Sea Planet Star-Lord died suddenly. It was important to note that the Cloud Sea Planet Star-Lord was a 4th grade super-evolved dragon. Under normal circumstances, he should still have tens of thousands of years of life left. Why did he suddenly die? But none of this was important. Next was to choose the Star-Lord's successor. After the death of every Star-Lord in the entire star field, the star field would choose their own successor. Of course, the successor could also be chosen according to the previous Star-Lord's last words. But this generation's Star-Lord had trained 2 people before he died. Konghai and Shi Mingyue. Kong Hai was a space attribute super-evolved dragon. He had reached the 3rd level. Shi Mingyue was an extremely rare time attribute super-evolved dragon. She had also reached the 3rd level. The two of them each led a group of forces. They attacked each other, both wanting to be the new Star Lord. Chapter 620. On this day, after Immortality finished teaching a few students in the lakeside villa, he brewed a pot of tea and sat by the lake with Lei Ren to drink. Gradually, the moon rose above the willow branches and Lei Ren went back to rest. After all, he still had classes tomorrow. The night breeze was slightly cold, and the fragrance of flowers sent them off. Immortality couldn't help but want to call Happy and the others out to enjoy the beautiful night together. However, Happy and the others weren't dragons. If they were discovered, there might be a lot of trouble. More than 2 hours passed like this. Immortality was about to go back to sleep. A flying car stopped in the distance. Then 2 people got out of the car. The clothes of these 2 people looked like ordinary civilians. However, the temperament of the 2 of them was definitely not ordinary civilians. Immortality glanced at them. Both of them were rank 10 evolved dragons. One had to know that although rank 10 evolved dragons weren't the top existences in this world, they weren't common either. Now that these 2 were rank 10 evolved dragons, it could be seen that their identities weren't simple. The 2 of them came to Immortality and cupped their fists to Immortality. "Instructor Immo, I've heard a lot about you." He looked at the 2 of them up and down and saw that although their clothes were simple, they were very clean, and their hair was meticulously combed. "You are?" Immortality asked. "We are subordinates of Master Kong Hai. We were ordered by Master Kong to come and pay a visit to Instructor Immo." Immortality, after hearing these 2 people's words, knew why they came. He shook his head slightly. "I've always been unwilling to deal with the officials. Please go back." The 2 of them looked at each other and paused for a moment. After the sudden death of the previous Star Lord, the 2 people with the greatest power on the planet were Kong Hai and Shi Mingyue. Kong Hai was once a soldier who fought in all directions and participated in the war between planets. He was iron-blooded and courageous. He won the respect of many soldiers in the barracks. After the onlookers, he won the respect of many civilians and political figures. On this planet, there were countless people who wanted to be recognized by Kong Hai and become his subordinates. But now this young instructor rejected Master Kong. This was something they didn't expect. Of course they wouldn't give up so easily. One of them said, "Don't say that Master Kong Hai values you very much. If you can join him, you will receive much higher status and respect than you have now. You don't have to trouble teaching so many students. We know that you must be short of money to teach so many students. If you join Lord Kong Hai's side, you will have plenty of money and beauties." Hearing this, Immortality burst into laughter. As he laughed, he shook his head. No wonder even with Lord Kong Hai's strength and status, he still hasn't defeated Shi Mingyue. Just because he has subordinates like you. Is this how you rope people in? Women? Money? To be able to catch the eye of Lord Kong Hai and reach such a position, who would care about worldly things like money and women? The 2 of them looked at each other again, and a look of understanding flashed across their eyes. Finally, the 2 of them saluted Immortality at the same time. "Instructor Immo, please advise us." Immortality shook his head. "If you want to rope someone in, you have to at least cater to their preferences. Before you go, don't you have to study this person's preferences and personality?" The 2 of them replied, "We have studied Instructor Immo. We think that Instructor Immo values money." "Ah!" Immortality laughed heartily again. These 2 people were really interesting. Were all Kong Hai's subordinates like this? That was way too King honest. But when Immortality plundered their memories, he found that things weren't that simple. Most generals liked to be straightforward and weren't that smart. And those civil officials played with people's hearts and politics. It was basically impossible for a general to play with civil officials. As a military general, Kong Hai was able to rise up in his official career. It was obvious that his thoughts weren't that simple. He was good at using people and naturally good at figuring out people's hearts. He knew that if he wanted to subdue someone like Immortality, normal methods wouldn't work. He could only use some special methods such as letting these 2 people show their honesty. Perhaps this would have some effect. In fact, if Immortality hadn't plundered their memories, it might have worked. Immortality was indeed moved by the sincerity of these 2 people. He wanted to follow these 2 to see what kind of talents Kong Hai's subordinates were. But now, from the memories of these 2 people, he knew that these were just tricks that Kong Hai wanted to show him. It was a trick to attract him. Immortality dispelled this idea. At the same time he was really impressed by this empty brain. But Emo sure wouldn't join Kong Hai because of this. He was free and happy as an instructor. Why should he be ordered by others? He waved his hand at the two of them. You don't have to do this. I've always been quiet and indifferent. I'm used to being free. If I go, I'll definitely cause trouble. Not only won't I be able to help Master Kong Hai, but I might also affect Master Kong Hai's important matters. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other again and saw a flash of surprise in each other's eyes. Why did it seem like their thoughts were seen through by this person in front of them? This guy was too scary. They had only met for less than 5 minutes and had only exchanged a few words. Their thoughts were already seen through by this guy. No wonder Master Kong Hai valued this person so much. But now that they had said this, their purpose had been exposed. They could only salute Emo Sure with cupped fists. Instructor Emo, then I'm sorry to disturb you. With that, the two of them quietly said goodbye. The surroundings returned to peace. On the night of the second day, the peace of the lakeside villa was broken again. When Emo Sure was drinking tea by the lakeside, 2 more people came. These 2 people also drove flying cars. However, their flying cars didn't stop far away. Instead, they came directly in front of Emo Sure. The 2 of them got off the car. Their clothes were really normal, but their aura wasn't normal either. They cupped their fists towards Emo Sure and said, Instructor Emo, our master invites you. I chuckled and asked, Who is your master? One of them replied, Master Sure Mingyue. I replied calmly and then ignored the 2 of them. It is your honor to be able to work for Master Sure. There was a domineering aura in his words. Instructor Emo, come with us if you know what's good for you. Even if you don't work for Master Sure, at least go and take a look. We have completed our mission. Don't make it hard for us. I laughed coldly. Why should I care if it's easy or not? Chapter 6:21. Don't make it difficult for us. The 2 men repeated their words with a hint of viciousness in their words. So what if I make it difficult for you? Emo Sure smiled indifferently and asked with a hint of ridicule. In that case, don't blame us. As the 2 spoke, energy surged from their bodies. One of them was of the time attribute, while the other was of the space attribute. Their energy intertwined, and the space around them seemed to be constantly surging like waves. Time and space intertwine, crush all things. The 2 let out a muffled roar from their throats at the same time. The black and chaotic energy on their bodies quickly swept toward Emo Sure. The black and chaotic energy kept intertwining, entangling, and surging around Emo Sure. In just a few seconds, Emo Sure was completely devoured. It seemed to have formed a small black hole. The 2 looked at each other and a smug smile appeared on their faces. Who said that evolved dragons couldn't fight against super-evolved dragons? Wasn't this so-called mentor Emo a super-evolved dragon? The 2 of them had defeated this guy in just a few seconds. After trapping this guy in the black hole, they just needed to bring him back. However, before the smiles on their faces disappeared, the black hole in front of them gradually disappeared. A figure walked out of the black hole with an ordinary face and body. The person in black was none other than Emo Sure. The smiles on the 2's faces froze, and endless fear appeared in their eyes. How is this possible? How did he break free from our space-time black hole? Because they were too frightened, the 2 of them couldn't speak clearly. They really couldn't understand. This guy was at most a rank 2 super-evolved dragon, and their space-time black hole had once devoured a rank 3 super-evolved dragon. Why didn't it work in front of this guy this time? Emo Sure plundered their memories and knew what they were thinking. He chuckled. Because I'm not just rank 3. As he spoke, countless blood-red tentacles stretched out from under his feet. They crawled along the ground to the feet of the 2, like countless red snakes crawling up their bodies, and finally completely devoured them. Meanwhile, their so-called time skills and space skills were completely ineffective against Emo Sure. It was only now that the 2 of them realized that this person before them wasn't just a 3rd grade but a 4th grade. He might even be a 5th grade. Thinking of this, their eyes were filled with despair. Their space-time combination could restrain any attribute, which allowed them to challenge Tier 2 or even Tier 3 super-evolved colossal dragons. However, no matter how strong their attributes were, the level gap was too large. They could do nothing about it. It was obvious that this person's level was much higher than theirs. Facing such a person, if they offended him, the only result would be death. The next moment, the 2 of them were completely swallowed by the blood-red tentacles. Another notification popped up in Emo Sure's mind. His dragon slaying points had increased by 2. After killing these 2 people, his heart trembled slightly. In his mind he said, "System, check in for a special event." The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in event, killed spacetime attribute dragon. Sign in reward, dragon bloodline second mutation of the dragon vein? Emoshur was very surprised. Today's sign in reward was very strange. Just as he was surprised, his body began to change. He felt 2 streams of energy rushing from his left and right arms to his hands. Finally, they gathered in his palms. 2 vortexes were formed. The energy kept spinning in these 2 vortexes and was swallowed by them. At the same time, the color of these 2 vortexes kept changing. Finally, the vortex on his left hand turned into a chaotic color, and the vortex on his right hand turned black. This is... Emoshur looked at his hands. The chaotic color on his left hand represented the time attribute. The black color on his right hand represented the space attribute. Time on my left hand, space on my right. Combine left and right, reverse time and space. Emoshur said these 2 sentences for no reason. At this moment, energy surged in his hands. Emoshur couldn't help but squat down. He stretched out his left index finger. He pointed at a blade of grass by the lake. The chaotic energy gushed out from his index finger and was absorbed by the blade of grass. In the next moment, the blade of grass grew rapidly, reaching a height of more than a foot. Then it began to turn yellow and finally completely withered like a piece of hay in winter. It was September and the summer vacation hadn't completely ended yet. However, this blade of grass seemed to have experienced autumn and winter in this short moment. The time attribute is indeed amazing. Energy surged in Emoshur's right hand again. Facing the blade of grass, he gently separated his right index and middle fingers. A stream of black energy entered the blade of grass. The blade of grass was quickly torn into countless small powder. He didn't use dragon consciousness, nor did he use any other energy attack. Instead, he used a space attribute skill to refine the space where the blade of grass was into countless small fragments. Then he tore the blade of grass into pieces. Just imagine if he used such a skill on a giant dragon, the giant dragon wouldn't be able to resist at all. No wonder the time attribute and space attribute were the 2 strongest attributes in the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. And now, Emoshur had time in his left hand and space in his right. Such a person had probably never appeared in the entire 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. Next, he tried to combine the energy in his left hand and right hand to perform a new skill. However, he had just obtained the energy of these 2 attributes after all. He wasn't familiar with them yet, so he failed after more than 10 attempts. Emoshur didn't force it. He just let nature take its course. Right now, he was a 6th grade super evolved giant dragon and had mastered many 9 dragon transformations. Now that he had the time and space attributes, he had become the ceiling of the entire Cloud Sea planet. To put it bluntly, as long as he wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted on Cloud Sea planet. No one or any force could stop him. However, he had always kept a low profile. He was invincible in Cloud Sea planet, but who knew if there were even more powerful existences on other planets? For example, the ancient dragons. Therefore, before he became an ancient dragon, he felt that he had to keep a low profile. Once he became an ancient dragon, he would go on a killing spree and quickly advance. In his opinion, once he became an ancient dragon, it would be even harder to kill him. Then he would reveal his true identity. Even if there were other more powerful ancient dragons, they probably wouldn't be able to do anything to him. 2 hours later, in Cloud Sea Starry Cloud City, Konghai's mansion. 2 subordinates reported to Konghai. Lord Konghai, he doesn't want to join us. Konghai sighed, if he doesn't want to, then so be it. My lord, should we kill him? Forget it. As long as he doesn't make an enemy out of us. Moreover, who knows what faction is behind him. Chapter 622. Cloud Sea City, Shi Family Mansion. In Shi Mingyue's study. Shi Mingyue frowned slightly and said, Men. Soon, the door opened and a person who looked like a guard walked in. Shi Mingyue asked, the 2 people who went to Emoshur's place haven't returned yet? The guard replied, Not yet, my lord. Find out why they haven't returned yet. There was a trace of impatience in Shi Mingyue's tone. The guard knew that Shi Mingyue was a little angry and quickly cupped his fists. Yes, my lord. Then he took out a small device on his left arm and turned it on. A blue beam of light shot out from the top of the device. In the beam of light was the projection of the 2 people. The two people left the Sher family mansion and took a flying car all the way to the lakeside villa. Soon they got off the car at the lakeside villa. They came in front of Mo Sher. After saying a few words, he moved and created a black hole. The black hole began to devour Mo Sher, but a moment later, Mo Sher walked out. Then he killed the two people. Seeing this, the guard couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Because of the two people sent by Sher Mingyue, one was of the time attribute and the other was of the space attribute. The two of them worked together to reverse time and space. In theory, the two of them could kill a grade 3 super-evolved giant dragon instantly. Even if they encountered a grade 4 super-evolved giant dragon, they could fight it. But now they were easily killed by Mo Sher. This was enough to show that Mo Sher's strength was very likely that of a grade 4 super-evolved giant dragon, or even a grade 5. If he really reached grade 5, he would be the strongest existence in the entire Cloud Sea planet. Previously, the Star Master was the strongest on Cloud Sea planet, a grade 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Now that the Star Master was dead, the strongest person was the man in front of him. Sher Mingyue's brows furrowed when she saw this. She thought that this guy was at most a grade 3 super-evolved giant dragon and that she could easily defeat him. She didn't expect this guy to be so strong. But soon, a fierce look flashed across her face. Since I can't use him, then I'll destroy him. No one on Cloud Sea planet was his match. But what about outside of Cloud Sea planet? Thinking of this, Sher Mingyue dialed an interstellar number. The person on the phone was not a human or a dragon but a blurry shadow. Senior brother, I have something I need your help with. The blurry shadow wriggled and made a strange rustling sound, similar to the rustling of leaves in the wind. If you want my help, the price is not low. I know. Come first. The blurry shadow paused for a moment before saying, Blood brothers settle accounts clearly. Let's settle the price first, then it'll be easier to handle the rest. Sher Mingyue cursed in her heart. He was really King obsessed with money, but on the surface he remained calm and collected. I need you to help me kill someone. How about a mid-sized spaceship? The blurry shadow chuckled. That depends on who you kill and what his level is. Might be 3rd grade. At best it could be 4th grade. Then he heard the rustling sound again. You have to pay more. Add your sister, you're really King obsessed with money? However, he remained calm on the surface and only nodded. How much do you want? Another 50 million, 30 million, 50 million, 35 million, 50 million, 40 million? Deal. The blurry shadow laughed again, laughing so hard that its body seemed to tremble. This reminds me of the business we did when we were young. I really miss that time. Sher Mingyue also smiled and shouted in a Chunibu manner, Brothers of one mind. The blurry shadow continued to laugh. Sharp enough to cut through gold. The guard at the side kept cursing in his heart. Oh, this is called Brothers of one mind? But it's true that sharp enough to cut through gold. Both of them are haggling for their own benefits. Of course, this thought was only in his heart. He did not dare to show any disrespect on the surface. Sher Mingyue hung up the phone. She cursed fiercely. Just like when we were young, there's no King brotherhood, only benefits. As she spoke, she took a sip. The guard at the side still did not dare to say anything. 2 days later, in the study of Sher Mingyue's residence. There was only Sher Mingyue and her senior brother. It was a humanoid creature wearing a cloak. They could not see what was inside the cloak. They could only see that it was pitch black inside the cloak. Sher Mingyue showed the previous video to the humanoid creature. How is it? Are you confident? The humanoid creature laughed a few times. Of course I'm confident. But you have to pay more. Sher Mingyue frowned and her face darkened. Senior brother, you can't be householder Qian, right? The humanoid creature laughed and said, Didn't I say that even brothers should settle their accounts clearly? But didn't you already pay more the day before yesterday? That's different. You didn't say that this person was so strong the day before yesterday. Even the space-time duo was easily killed by him. Naturally, you have to pay more to deal with such a person. Okay, I'll pay more. Then how much do you want? Sher Mingyue was still a little impatient. Then let's add another 20 million. Sher Mingyue frowned. 20 million. Why don't you just rob? How can robbing be as fast as making money? Sher Mingyue shook her head. 10 million. The blurry shadow was still laughing. 20 million. 12 million. 20 million. 14 million. 20 million. 15 million. Deal. Sher Mingyue shook her head helplessly. You win every time. The blurry shadow was still laughing. You know that I win, but you still have to bargain. Can't you just say 15 million? I hope you'll find your conscience. Who knew that you don't have a conscience at all? You know that I don't have a conscience, but you still have to bargain. Are you brainless? Let's not talk about this. When do you plan to do it? The blurry shadow in the cloak seemed to sway a few times and said, that depends on the timing, the location, and the people. Okay, it's up to you. You just have to kill that guy within 3 days. If you're willing to pay more, I can kill him within a day. Senior brother, don't go too far. I've always gone too far. No, I can't afford it. Whoosh, you're still so stingy. You're not stingy? You're not stingy. You let me increase it again and again. Whoosh, I'm your senior brother. This is your filial piety to me. On the evening of the 3rd day, after Immortality helped a few students break through, he came to the lakeside again. He was still lying on the recliner, enjoying the evening breeze while drinking tea. It was indescribably comfortable. And at this moment, a black shadow quickly floated over from the distant sky. Chapter 623. Immortality was by the lake, enjoying the evening breeze and drinking tea. A black shadow suddenly flew over from afar. Doomsday sensed it with his draconic will and found that the black shadow was not solid. Instead, it was more like a cloud of mist. Is that a magical dragon? Immortality was slightly surprised. Magical dragons had once appeared in the myriad dragons starfield. Those dragons originally had normal bodies, but after being invaded by some kind of magic power, their bodies were reduced to nothingness, leaving only a cloud of black mist around their consciousness. They were called magical dragons. In history, there was once a powerful demonized giant dragon, whose strength had reached the 10th level of super-evolution. Its body was illusory and all energy and physical attacks had no effect on it. In the end, 2 dragons of the time and space attributes worked together to create a black hole and devour it. However, no one knew where the magic power in their bodies came from. Even after millions of years of research, no one had been able to find a clue. Fortunately, the appearance of those demonic dragons was extremely rare. In the entire history, there had only been 5 such occurrences. Who would have thought that one would appear here? The demonized giant dragon came to a place about 50 meters away from Immortality. It floated in the air like a ghost, observing Immortality. A short moment later, a rustling sound came from the center of the magical dragon. It sounded like the rustling of leaves in the wind. Russell, you are an interesting fellow. Immortality didn't mind. That was because he had already seen this person with the eye of the magical dragon. It was a 4th grade super-evolved dragon. The only difference between it and other dragons was that its body was illusory. An ordinary dragon would have a hard time dealing with someone like this. However, Immortality had no such problem. That was because he controlled time with his left hand and space with his right. Even though he had just obtained the time and space attributes not long ago, he had an advantage over this person in terms of grade. It wouldn't take much effort to deal with him. This body of yours is rather interesting. Immortality said with a teasing tone. The dragon laughed once again. Someone paid me to kill you. Immortality tried to plunder his memories but found that he couldn't do so. Thinking about it, it should be possible to plunder only if one's body was corporeal. However, this fellow didn't even have a body, so it was impossible to plunder an illusory cloud of smoke. Let me guess, it's Mingyu? Immortality said slowly. The black smoke continued to let out a clatter of laughter. You really know that good-for-nothing junior brother of mine? I'm starting to like you. However, liking someone is one thing. If he pays me to kill someone, then you can't live. Of course, nothing is absolute in this world. If you are willing to pay a higher price for your life, then I can spare your life. Immortality laughed when he heard this. A shrewd businessman like you is rare in this world. He took money from him and now he wants money from me. With a brain like yours, you can do anything. The black smoke trembled and the cloak behind it also trembled slightly. Whoosh, most people are either scared or angry when they see me. It's the first time I've seen someone praise me. I like you more and more. In view of this, I can give you a 50% discount. If you can take out 100 million dragon coins, then I'll spare your life. Immortality shrugged. Do you think I look like someone who has 100 million dragon coins? The black smoke paused and said, haven't you earned 100 million from that nuisance cram school of yours? Immortality shook his head. That's not a small goal. It's not that easy to make money. The black smoke paused for a moment and said, I can also pay in installments. Why don't you think about it? How do I pay in installments? Immortality asked with a smile. Down payment of 4 million and then give me a monthly payment. A monthly payment of 100,000. How about that? It's quite a good deal, isn't it? Emoshir laughed again. Forget it. I can't make 100,000 a month. And the down payment of 4 million is a bit too high. Then how much do you want? I think if you give me 4 million and give me a monthly payment of 100,000, I can consider sparing your life. Emoshir said jokingly. The black smoke paused for a moment and trembled a little. It was obvious that he was trembling slightly. Brat, I'm talking business with you seriously, and you dare to play with me? I shrugged again. No, I'm just talking business with you. It seems you want to die. The black shadow said and attacked Emoshir. Emoshir didn't know much about this black shadow, and he didn't know anything about magic. Of course he wouldn't let it get close to him. At this moment, the chaotic light in his left hand lit up, and the black light in his right hand lit up. The two types of light shone brightly. Soon, the two types of energy gathered in his palms and formed a big ball. This energy ball formed by the intertwining of two types of energy formed a vortex as soon as it appeared. The center of the whirlpool seemed to have an endless suction force. Within a 20-meter radius, all the flowers, trees, and lake water were sucked in. The black shadow that was pouncing over was shocked when he saw this. How is a space-time black hole possible? How can you have time and space at the same time? No. As he screamed, he tried to flee into the distance. But the suction force of the space-time black hole was too strong. He was too fierce when he pounced, and he was only 5 meters away from Emoshir. So, he was sucked in almost instantly. The moment before he was sucked in, he screamed in despair, I'll give you the 4 million down payment. Don't. In the next moment he was swallowed by the black hole. Emoshir retracted his hands, and the two types of energy returned to his hands from the black hole. The black hole disappeared completely. All of this took a long time to describe, but it happened in just 3 seconds. This kind of magic-possessed energy was hard to deal with. Countless colossal dragons in the 10,000 dragon starfield had died to deal with the 5 energy bodies that had been possessed by demonic powers. In the end they barely managed to kill them. But this kind of energy had a fatal weakness. They were afraid of black holes. Spacetime black holes were their natural nemesis. Even in his wildest dreams, this guy would never have thought that Emoshir would possess the time and space attributes. Emoshir was happy to have used the spacetime black hole to devour him. The time and space attributes were so powerful. It was so easy to kill the energy of a 4th-grade super-evolved dragon. It seemed I had to practice the combination of time and space attributes in the future. Chapter 624. After killing the demon-possessed dragon, Emoshir knew that Mingyu would definitely not let him go. But he didn't care at all. One had to know that with his current strength he was basically invincible in the entire Cloud Sea Star. And at that time, Mingyu was at most a level 4 super-evolved dragon. Even if all the powerhouses under him were added up, Emoshir wouldn't even blink. Of course at that time, Mingyu might also invite other extraterrestrial helpers, but Emoshir didn't believe that he would be able to invite an ancient dragon. With Emoshir's current strength, as long as it wasn't an ancient dragon, even if he couldn't win, it would be easy for him to escape. So after killing the demon-possessed dragon, Emoshir returned to his bedroom as usual when it was close to 12 o'clock. System, sign in. He said in his mind. The system's voice quickly sounded. Sign in successful. Sign in reward. Dragon will has evolved into demonic will. Demonic will? Emoshir was a little surprised. What is this demonic will? Demonic will, a type of psychokinesis. It's just that this psychokinesis has a certain killing intent. It can be used to kill dragons, or it can also be used to arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. It can be used to kill dragons, or it can also arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. Emoshir was a little excited about this. Now, it was impossible to use dragon will to kill dragons in the 10,000 dragon star field. Because the dragons' bodies were extremely strong, dragon eyes couldn't tear their bodies apart at all. But now, this demonic will could kill dragons. Well, this was equivalent to Emoshir having a method to kill dragons invisibly. And he could also arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of others. This was very powerful. In certain situations where it was inconvenient for him to make a move, he could use demonic will to arouse the evil thoughts in the hearts of enemies. Emoshir entered his Earth space. He tested the power of this demonic will. With his current demonic will, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill 3 to 5 dragons under normal circumstances. The power wasn't as strong as he had imagined. Thinking about it, it should be because the demonic will wasn't too strong yet. Once its power grew, killing 10,000 dragons with a single thought would no longer be a fantasy. However, this little bit of power was enough for now. Imagine how shocked and terrified the other giant dragons would be when they saw that he could kill a giant dragon with just a thought. However, these were only Imoshir's guesses. In fact, the power of this demonic consciousness still needed to be tested by the WRMS. Where was he going to find a dragon to verify it? The answer was simple. He had killed 2 waves of Shi Mingyue's men, so he definitely wouldn't let him go. Sooner or later he would come back to find him. Since that was the case, he might as well take the initiative and meet him now. Thinking of this, Imoshir moved his mind and appeared over 1,000 kilometers away. After that, he used his maximum speed to fly towards the main city of Cloud Sea Star, Cloud Sea City. Now that Imoshir had become a 6th-stage super-evolved dragon, his speed was extremely fast. While flying, he tried to add a spatial skill to it. He was not flying but flickering. You saw him appear in front of you, but in the next moment he was already on the horizon. This kind of flickering was different from Imoshir's previous teleportation. The previous teleportation consumed a lot of energy. But now he was using a spatial skill. This kind of spatial skill consumed very little energy. Moreover, Imoshir was not proficient in spatial skills. If he was proficient, it was possible for him to reach tens of thousands of kilometers per second. At the same time in Cloud Sea City. At this moment, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, wind and rain mixed together. In Kong Hai's residence. Kong Hai was discussing the upcoming plan with a few of his strategists. He planned to kill Shi Mingyue tonight. And he knew that Shi Mingyue was not to be trifled with. Shi Mingyue was probably planning to make a move against him in the next few days. After discussing for about half an hour, they finally came up with a plan for tonight. Don't worry, Lord Kong. Tonight's plan is foolproof. As long as our plan is carried out smoothly, then Shi Mingyue will definitely die. Kong Hai nodded and said, I believe that after you kill Shi Mingyue, Cloud Sea Star will be our world. At that time I will not treat you unfairly. The strategists cupped their fists and said, we will definitely do our best. At the same time in Shi Mingyue's residence. Shi Mingyue was also discussing the plan with a few strategists. We have received information that Kong Hai is likely to make a move tonight. Lord Shi, then we must act as soon as possible and be one step ahead of them. As the saying goes, those who strike first gain the advantage, those who strike later suffer. Lord Shi, now is the time for lightning and thunder, the storm is fierce. It is the best time to act. Shi Mingyue shook her head slightly. The others were puzzled when they saw this. Does Lord Shi have a plan? Lord Shi, if you don't act now, it will be too late for regrets. Shi Mingyue still shook her head slightly. I am waiting for someone. Could Lord Shi be waiting for the shadow hidden under the cloak? Shi Mingyue nodded. That is my senior brother. With his strength he can deal with a 5th-grade super-evolved dragon. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the highest combat power on Cloud Sea Star. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. I understand. Lord Shi wants to wait for senior brother to return. With senior brother here there is almost no chance of us losing. Shi Mingyue smiled and nodded. You are right. At this point Shi Mingyue called out to the door, Men? A fully armored guard quickly came in. Lord Shi. The guard cupped his fists and greeted. Senior brother is not back yet? No. Shi Mingyue looked at the time. It was already around 12:10 at night. Senior brother should have completed the mission by now. With his personality, even if he could not make it back in time, as long as he completed the mission, he would call Shi Mingyue to ask for the remaining money. Did something go wrong? Shi Mingyue's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this. He had sent the space-time duo, thinking that it would be easy for them to capture the dragon. Unexpectedly, the space-time duo never returned. Could it be that today was also the same? How was that possible? Shi Mingyue was much stronger than the space-time duo. Let alone a 5th-grade dragon, even a 6th-grade super-evolved dragon would not have an easy time in front of his senior brother. That guy could not be a 7th-grade super-evolved dragon, could he? Just as he was wondering, a domineering voice came from outside the door. Shi Mingyue, come out and face your death. Even though it was a stormy night, this voice broke through the sky and the curtain of rain, echoing in the minds of everyone in the mansion. Shi Mingyue was shocked when he heard this voice. He was a scholar and scholars were always very smart. That was why he did not go out. Instead he went to the monitoring room. He looked at the sky through the monitoring room screen. In the rainy night, a figure was floating in the air above his mansion. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The person in the sky was dressed in black and had a cold expression. It was Instructor Mo Shi, whom he had been looking for. Chapter 625. Seeing Mo Shi appear, a trace of fear appeared in Shi Mingyue's heart. The space-time duo had failed. Her senior apprentice brother had also failed. How was this possible? As far as Shi Mingyue knew, the strongest person she had ever seen was her senior apprentice brother. An existence that could kill a grade 6 super-evolved dragon with the body of a grade 4 super-evolved dragon. However, her senior apprentice brother had not returned, and this guy had appeared in front of her. Could it be that this guy's level had surpassed that of a grade 6 super-evolved dragon? No, that was impossible. How could he be a grade 6 super-evolved dragon? Shi Mingyue shook her head in fear. She ordered all her subordinates in the mansion, "Kill him. Kill him." There were some ruthless people under Shi Mingyue. Moreover, some of them did not recognize Mo Shi. Therefore, a grade 3 super-evolved dragon with a mohawk shouted, "Don't fight with me. He's mine." To be able to kill this fellow who had trespassed into the first mansion would be another meritorious service. Although Lord Shi's methods were ruthless, he had always been very generous. Killing this guy would definitely give them a lot of rewards. No one else went to fight with the Mohawk because the Mohawk was a troublemaker. He was Lord Shi's favorite. Who would dare to fight with him? They could only curse in their hearts. This guy got first again. What AF * King Bootlicker. The Mohawk had already condensed a pair of wings with energy and flew up. The next moment, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The entire land was illuminated as if it was daytime. Meanwhile, the body of the Mohawk that had just flown up was instantly torn in half and fell from the sky. When the surrounding people saw this, they were all shocked. What was going on? They did not see the guy in the sky attack. Moreover, after the Mohawk fell to the ground, his body showed no signs of healing. It was important to know that dragons had extremely strong vitality. Their self-healing abilities were also very strong. Even if their bodies were torn in half, they would be able to heal themselves at the fastest speed. However, the cells in the Mohawk's body seemed to have died long ago. What was going on? In the midst of the shock, there was a grade 3 super-evolved dragon who was not afraid of death. Like the Mohawk, he roared, "How dare you trespass the mansion? I think you don't want to live anymore." Then he stomped his feet on the ground and his body quickly soared into the air. When he was in the air, a layer of yellow energy appeared around his body. Then, the yellow energy in the sky condensed into a giant fist that was 1,000 meters long and 500 meters wide. It smashed down on Mo Shi. Even the rainwater in the sky seemed to have stopped under the impact of this earthy yellow energy fist. This was the killing move of the rank 3 Earth Dragon. However, at this moment, the Earth Attribute Dragon's body was suddenly torn into several pieces. It fell from the sky and at the same time the khaki-colored energy fist disappeared. The rain that seemed to have solidified in the sky began to fall again. When several pieces of the Earth Attribute Dragon's corpse fell from the sky and landed at their feet, everyone was once again shocked. This Earth Attribute Giant Dragon was best at defense, and its body was far stronger than other giant dragons, but now it was torn into several pieces in an instant. Just how much power was needed to do that? Moreover, no one saw how the guy in the sky attacked. That fellow kept flapping its blood-red wings, quietly floating in the sky, motionless. They did not see any signs of him attacking at all. However, he killed 2 rank 3 super-evolved giant dragons in an instant. What on earth was going on? Amidst the panic, someone said, "This guy is too strong. We can't deal with him alone. Everyone, let's kill him together." When he said this, the rest of the people roared one after another. They leaped into the sky. Moreover, they did not attack Mo Shi in their human forms. Instead, they transformed into their giant dragon forms. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, the giant dragon form was the strongest combat form. Therefore, when giant dragons encountered a powerful enemy, they would usually transform into their giant dragon forms. In just an instant, more than 30 giant dragons appeared. Under the curtain of rain, each of these 30 giant dragons was 10,000 meters long. There were fiery red fire elemental dragons, golden metal elemental dragons, and yellow earth elemental dragons. More than 30 giant dragons almost occupied the entire dark night sky. The sky was filled to the brim. This was definitely the most spectacular scene Mo Shi had ever seen. If the people on Earth saw this scene, they would probably be scared to death. In the secret chamber below the ground, Shi Mingyue watched this scene on the screen, and her heart began to beat rapidly. More than 30 giant dragons were basically rank 3 super-evolved giant dragons. If they still could not deal with this guy, then they would have to bring out their strongest secret weapon. This time, Mo in the sky finally moved. He did not transform into his giant dragon form. He still maintained his human form. He stretched out his hands slightly. The chaotic time attribute energy appeared in his left hand, and the black space attribute energy appeared in his right hand. Time in his left hand and space in his right. The left and right combined and time and space reversed. The next moment, these two attribute energies quickly rose and intertwined in front of him. Then an energy vortex appeared. This energy vortex appeared to be the color of chaos. However, it soon turned black. The next moment, a black hole appeared in the sky. This black hole was about 100 meters in diameter. The moment the black hole appeared, a huge suction force suddenly spread out in all directions. All the rain within 100 kilometers was instantly sucked into this black hole. Crack! A bolt of lightning that spanned across half the sky appeared. However, this bolt of lightning did not have time to illuminate the entire world before it was quickly swallowed by the black hole. When all the giant dragons saw this, their expressions suddenly changed drastically. A black hole that could even swallow lightning. What kind of terrifying existence was this? In horror, these giant dragons quickly fled in all directions. However, before they could escape, their bodies involuntarily moved toward the black hole. A fire giant dragon kept flapping its wings, trying to break free from its shackles. However, its tail was quickly swallowed by the black hole, and the power generated by its flapping wings was far from being able to withstand the suction force of the black hole. It seemed that in just a few seconds, this giant dragon was swallowed by the black hole. One must know that this giant dragon's body length reached 10,000 meters, and its wingspan reached more than 8,000 meters. The diameter of the black hole was only about 100 meters. However, the black hole had no difficulty swallowing this 10,000-meter giant dragon. The rest of the giant dragons originally thought that their bodies were huge and would be stuck in the black hole, and it would be impossible to be completely swallowed. However, when they saw this scene, they suddenly panicked. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.